question, I guess, to start off with is just how far along are you in the editing process now? Like, what's our
Oh,
do we have a TDA? Like what's our
I'm aiming for September.
okay?
I'm aiming for September because me and Matthew, we're like some of the chapters that aren't too technical, he edits on his own, and we're making actually quite decent progress for the month or so. We have I think okay, there's about 21 chapters and we
Okay.
have about 5 or 6 done. So that's pretty good for a month's work, you know. But hopefully like the process will accelerate when he does. So what we're going to do is he's going to do all the easy bits on his own in terms of grammar and sentence arrangement, and the more technical theory style stuff we have to go, like we usually go on Discord and we like hammer things out. So like a lot of my problem with writing is I think I do, like he is correct, I do have a form of dyslexia that I've had since I was a kid, where like the thought is coherent but
Yeah.
the actual sentence just needs to be arranged in a different way with other sentences, because I'm basically
So
the
you write
thought,
how you speak.
I write how I speak, the thought is complete and I have the whole idea in my head, but it's a matter of backtracking and like arranging it. So I need like fresh eyes. And of course, Matthew is a product of the British education system, and he's quite good at language. So it's been good. It's been going pretty good. And hopefully, in the future when I do write other books, Matthew can also help me out, because I do have the idea of writing. My second book will probably be about different like outsider artists that are also like perennialists or mystics. Like I have idea to write about Jung's Red Book,
Uh-huh.
Kumaraswamy. Who else am I thinking of? Well, Nikolai Rorish. I always wanted to write something about Nikolai Rorish. So all like different weirdos and mystics and shamanic type of people that also dabbled in visual art. I had this idea since like before grad school, but just the neoliberal kitsch thing came about. And anyways, how are you, Prude? How are you?
Oh,
It's been a while.
I'm doing great. I have the world's best problem to have, and I have to, as we were talking before we went live, I'll make a more formal announcement because it's going to change a lot of my online schedule as the Prudentialist. But I've got two job offers that I have to decide from, and both are not going to be remote, and both are really good opportunities for me, regardless. So my thank God Almighty, the sort of my job hunt has kind of come to an end, thank God. And yeah, so I mean that's what I've got going on, and then I've spent the last week and a half on and off with my teacher, finishing this icon of King David, and hopefully it'll be finished this weekend. But yeah, I mean I'm doing great. All things considered, I'm doing pretty good, and I've got some wonderful things down the line for our lovely viewers, as patrons especially. I've got a review coming up soon of the Hour of Decision by Oswald Spengler, and I've got
Oh,
some other stuff to come out soon. But yeah, I mean I'm doing
book
great.
John David Ebert says you shouldn't
I
read.
know it's the racist stuff, It's but
Uh,
I who knows? I'm gonna read it and give it a fair shake, and then
that's good.
yeah, I'm just enjoying my Lenten season. How was your Easter? How was your time away from the online world?
Oh, it was pretty good. Just trying to keep everything. I have a bunch of film reviews I have to do, and
I
I
watched
just
the Legally Blonde one. I quite enjoyed that because
uh,
you
you
get what you
watched
grist,
it.
but sometimes it's Kino.
Yeah. I have to do the next one. I have to do is Fantastic Planet. Someone recently sent me the fee to do this. It's this fan made animation series from. It's like very short though. I think each episode is like 2 minutes long. But someone did this fan animation of Warhammer 40K. They say it's like one of the best fan made animations of Warhammer. So I'm excited for that one. I know like a tiny bit about the Warhammer lore because my friend Remus,
Yeah.
back when on the BTR days, we did a whole episode on Warhammer 40K. And it's not, it's called Warhammer, starts with an R. Reichel something. Anyways, I will give you Videla, I will give you the Patreon, the Discord link. I have to do more things with the Discord. I want more activity. I want to start maybe doing Q&As that I could record. But anyways, yeah, my Easter was pretty good. I saw my family. I also, like, during the week, I saw my the woman, because just schedule issues between her family and mine, and also like to drive to where she's at would be, like, with the border and with the traffic, would be more intense if it was in the weekend.
Yeah.
So we try to avoid like the overt holidays. Like, I remember one time I saw her driving over, it was like right on the 4th of July, and I'm like, man, I'm not doing that again. I'm like waiting like almost an hour on the border. I'll look it up. I'll look up the Warhammer, the message. What is it? I have to review. It's called Warhammer. What's it called? Warhammer 40K Hell's Reach. That's Hell's Reach. Reach?
Oh, there
Hell's
you
Reach?
go.
Yeah, there you go. Popular fan animation, I think, with a few million views. But yeah, anyways, Easter's good. When is the Orthodox Easter, by the way?
May 5th this year.
May 5th?
Yeah.
Interesting. You know what's funny is that
It'll be on the same day next year, though.
Okay, that's good. Hell Sneed, there you go. People, do you
There's
know?
the title for when you put it out.
Yeah, that will be the title. Hell Sneed. Yeah. So it's funny because the Trans Day of Visibility thing was going off, and
Yeah.
you know what's funny? You know when like certain people that are like conservative grifters, but they live to like counter signal the right wing or the other conservatards. Who's that one that got alpha widowed by the Trump advisor, the lawyer?
I don't remember. Like,
Delgado something.
I don't know.
AJ Delgado, that one. Yeah.
Okay, because
She had that
I
tweet.
know that Ashley St. Clair, aka Sex a Laptop or whatever, was having a big bitch fit about it, which then conveniently all rolled into the, you know, sexual dynamics discourse about women on Twitter,
my
which I avoid
God.
like the devil. But
Let
yeah,
me just put out that Alex Kashuta is a good friend of mine. And I don't think she meant us. I mean, she interviewed Kefefiena and she knows about this stuff. But anyways, I don't know if I want to get into that. But no, but who was actually St. Clair alpha widowed by?
I don't think it was an alpha widow thing. I think she's just as what's the popular trend these days? Reformed whore or something like that. I mean, it's also I don't like diving into much of this simply because I don't know how much I care about this whole dynamic. I think that ironically, like the Nando who notices Carlos had made a point where he was just like, people punch at easy targets where they make up straw men or outlier fringes of the other side, and he was just like, you two deserve each other, to some extent, which I thought was kind of an on point discussion. But I mean, there is sort of an intrinsic hatred towards sort of knee-jerk, anti-white women stuff, which I think is really frustrating because all the data seems to indicate that they're the ones that get married, vote conservatively, don't actually do all the nasty shit that's on the internet. So, I mean, like, again, the distortion of our perceptions, which I think kind of fits for what we're going to talk about today. I think that it's very easy for people to blow past each other, but also because you live in a PvP clout-based, mechanic, right? Like everything that we do here, like your ideas build your reputation. It's not so much credentialism anymore. Mm-hmm. And so, it's why Kofefe or Spanchel or whatever can have the opinions that they do and the clout that they have, because it's about ideas. It's not so much who you actually are, who you're connected to. I mean, that does matter with respects to, say, being a more professional person speaking at conferences and whatnot. But I don't know. It's very easy for people to just blow past one another and to forget that any traditional dynamic of gender relations is just shot to hell. Like, it's a bloodied, mangled corpse. And sometimes, it's important to recognize that, hey, you're going to need an ICU room and not a Band-Aid where you're going to just be fixing nothing. Yeah. So it's a disaster regardless of which.
Right. But
Tim Miller is right though. I mean, like, a lot of normie conservatives just shit on white women for no good reason. And then like you notice this in the polls. Like I know elections are all like, oh, whatever, but I think that it's important to consider that. I'm sorry, like the 2020 election, for all the shit that went down, like there was a major shift in white suburban female voters. Kind of an important demographic to win,
Yeah.
especially if you're running for Congress or a lower like election house rundown. So
Like, yeah.
kind of important to not shit on these people, but at the same time, I think that this all reverts back to the whole debate about vision. You know, like which one has a healthy place that's going to walk you back from this abyss of like libtard spinsterdom,
Right.
because let's face it, that's the default norm for anyone these days. And I mean, like, this is something that I mentioned in our discussion, or in that Substack piece I wrote about fucking like the Rizoma school lady forever ago. Like,
Mm.
it's kind of important to recognize that even if there are quote unquote right wing women, and a lot of right
Post
wing
the
men
ancient
are
Giga
this,
Chad, the Rizoma space to this.
yeah, great space. Was very happy to be part of it. But no, what I mean is that like even people who are like quote unquote right wing women, or even I mean even men are like this too, where everyone still has like a shitload of like liberal presuppositions in their closet that will eke
Right.
out the moment that they feel attacked or that their skin is,
Oh,
you know,
this
that
happens
someone,
all the time.
this
I
happens all
mean,
the time.
yeah.
It's you know, a right wing or a conservative or whatever you want, disaffected liberals ordeal of civility. You know, like the taste of actual conservatism, the taste of actual right wing
Hmm.
or whatever is really ugly to them, so they spit it back out with their nasty priors. And you see this all the time
It's like
with
fucking Ashley. What's her name? Chu. That, or like this Delgado woman saying like incel. Or like it's what the fuck, man. Like it's. But sorry, go ahead, Prude. I have a
I
longer
mean,
rant.
it's grifter is an overused word. No, it's I mean, it's overused in the context that no one uses it for what's appropriately.
Right.
And I mean, I use it jokingly, but I mean, it's bad. It's bad. I mean, the liberal assumptions is the biggest challenge. I mean, we all have them. Everyone does, because we all grew up in a liberal society. We all grew up in an anti-fascist state. So I mean, it's really easy to operate under. Forgive me for using the term, but it's really easy to fall into a sense of like false or double consciousness, where like you say you're this,
Mm.
but like you really want to keep your nice liberal paradise. Which, don't get me wrong, like it would be nice um, to do that, but
Right.
we also know that that creates a lot of problems.
Did she say that ML Wiz? I don't think. I don't imagine Kashuda saying she's not right wing. Maybe I don't know. Like
A fake right? Well, I mean, this
it's a
is okay.
complicated
Here's
issue.
I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about the general discussion
No,
in
no, no. But
general.
I mentioned the Delgado woman because apparently she was gooned or alpha widowed by some like Trump lawyer or whatever, Stephen Miller. But she had this tweet about like, Trans Day visibility was there. It's just that Easter just happens to land on it. So therefore it's like you people are fucking
I'm sorry.
idiots.
One of those dates is a little more important than the other
Right,
one.
right.
You know.
But her point is like, oh, this is every year trans and how Easter changes. And it's like, okay, but you're counter signaling people like an obvious point that we can all agree on. And you're doing this because you were alpha widowed by a Trump guy. But anyways, my point being is that there's conservative grifters like her or Cassie Dillon or that shoe woman. Like they always do the thing about like you're an incel, and they almost like they're very proud of the fact that they're like, see, you're gonna lose in November because if you don't, appeal to women. But here's the thing, though. Okay, here's the thing. Now I can see both sides of this issue. I know I'm doing the whole, Goon Widow by Stephen Miller. There you go. I can see the both sides of the issue because on the one hand, I think that any sufficient political movement is going, and this is something actually that I think, who was it? It may have either been uh Nina Power, or it may have been Rachel Haywire, or it may have been
Mm.
Mary Harrington that said it was in response to the whole like the Canadian Maid program is going to start mating autistic people. So if you're a mutual of mine and you're a Leaf, they're coming for you, boy. They're coming for me. I mean, I may be
Oh,
an
there
autist.
was an old Nick Land tweet about that made me chuckle because he had said that the regime is anti-autism, therefore I'm pro-autism.
Right, right.
Um,
But
but I mean, it's a little more complicated than
it's more
that. But
complicated. No, but her point was, I think it was Rachel Hellwire, or no, it may have been Nina Power, maybe Nina Power. Her point was that people talk about the TFR and people demographic replacement and all that, but really, it's the problem is to give people the reason to live in general. in this life that we lead. And so that was a great point about people that obsess over like women are not having children, white women are not having children, whatever. The point is that people in general don't have the will to live, or increasingly do not have the will to live a full and productive life. So my point that I was trying to make is that I can see the one side. Alex Kashuta did bring up a good point, which is the demoralization posting against white women, against like, oh, in New York, oh, they got punched in the face. Isn't that hilarious because they voted for that? Oh, women in Europe get raped by migrants. They voted for that. That's like justice or whatever, right? When you should have, if you're worried about Western civilization and the demographics of people in Western civilization, then it's kind of like, you know, you can't like totally hate white women. You know what I mean? Like, it's nonsensical, right? I get that point. But on the other hand, there is a sense of like a lot of women on the quote unquote right wing will revert to radical feminist talking points, or like older feminist talking points, as soon as they're like, you know, they get banched on by anons, or they have like that. I think it was either that Cassie Dillon or that Chu girl that had like this glee in her tone of voice, were saying like, see, if you hate women, you're going to lose the election. It's like, you know, so I mean, I understand, like, I get accused of being a simp or whatever, and I certainly think that certain, you know, certain e-girls or whatever, or certain female political figures can go too far in blaming men for the problems of modernity in general. But at the end of the day, I do see that there is a lot of like anti-white women incel posting that probably isn't conducive to healthy political outcomes. So I know I'm totally playing the mushy centrist part here, but I just think that a lot of hurt people are lashing out at each other. And that's usually the problem with online discourse when it comes to this gender war type of shit. It's hurt people lashing out at other hurt people, and it's not going to do anything in terms of the real issues that we face, or in terms of the solutions to those issues, right? So, I mean, Alex got body because unfortunately she was in the crosshairs of another segment of the right. Let's not get into that. But I mean, I think that her tone, especially the tweet about like, well, you know, I have to be subjugated, blah, blah, blah. Like, I understand it came out wrong, but her basic point was getting at a reality, right? But it's just when you layer it with a lot of personal affect, then that's the problem. That's when a lot of anons who either, you know, who are lonely and who do want a better society, right? Then that's a lot of the problems, is that when a lot of these female posters, they will start talking about personal affects, and that's what triggers the huge swarm of negativity in the replies, right? So I think she had a point. She could have made that point a lot better. And that's my, I know I'm being a centrist in this, but that's my sensible centrist hot take, Prude.
I don't really have one.
I wasted half my cigarette doing that rant. Fuck.
There you go. Right, a true trooper. I don't know. I'm not really participatory in this kind of stuff simply because A, I'm diplomatic to a fault. B, I find it hard to care. I do ignore it. The only things that for me do matter is that, like, I know quote unquote elections don't matter, but to a large extent they still do. I'd rather have someone shitty than someone who's outright crappier than them be in office, especially on the local level. I mean, it matters in that respect because, I mean, what is Biden really running on? He's not running on any record. He's not running on the war. He's running on, you know, radical MAGA extremism and abortion and IVF stuff. So, you know, regardless of what your position is on those issues, I mean, it's going to be the same thing that we have seen in my entire lifetime of election cycles. And unfortunately, a lot of this stuff gets, you know, brought into the weeds. But I mean, as with all online spaces, they're all semi-permeable. There is no effective gatekeeping because all it takes is one person to say that this person is a friend. And then, of course, you can have easily a bunch ruined by one association or the other. Or others will just like wig out and they'll go crazy, and they'll be the case. And it gets even more complicated once you throw in intersexual dynamics into it, because that's just the way that it goes, because it's the fucking internet, and that's the way that it has always been as long as I've been alive, and as long as I've seen it. It's just that once spaces get intermingled or they're integrated, then it just becomes an outright disaster.
Mhm.
And it doesn't make it any better that we're all in a space where we're all competing for eyes, attention, and the same, crumples of dollars that people throw over for us for, palaver and videos and commentary or takes. And it's just like, yep, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it's an unfortunate consequence of the fact that it's more and more of a hen pecking social club where people are desperately trying to get away from one another, but they're forced to interact because they all kind of inhabit the same tiny cramped ecosystem, and
Mhm.
it's only a matter of time before something or
Yeah.
someone or some event, again, as we've already witnessed like 2 or 3 events in the last 5 years, like break certain parts of the ecosystem, whether it be COVID, whether it be what's happening between Hamas and Israel.
Well, even
You know,
Ukraine a little bit, but not
well, I
really
mean,
that long.
Ukraine especially too. I mean, like, so really,
Yeah.
there's already been like three big ones. I imagine there'll be another one somewhere down the
Yeah.
line. I mean, we've got several months until the election
The
happens.
erection.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, anything can happen between now and then. And I mean, so I just anticipate that there will be more fracture lines, more shelling points, and again, it's someone in chat had already said it. I mean, like, it's already a social club. It's not so much as uh a tight knit group of things. And like the more I like listen to people who do stuff for a living and with regards to politics, whether it be consultants or campaign strategists or whatever, I mean, it's a whole totally different world from, say, the established kind of career field towards sort of the online, space. And then, of course, as Elon keeps changing things to Twitter, like the medium will change. People are posting articles on their my latest on X, rather than Substack or whatever. So I mean,
Mhm.
the place is slowly turning into, and Morgoth was right about this. It's turning into the everything app,
The walled
and
garden, yeah.
as soon as you get kicked from it, because you still can. Let's not kid ourselves. Um, you're going to be kicked away from all this. I saw, I don't, was it, well, it wasn't Pete Dubroska, it was someone else who was talking about getting demonetized off X. And so it's just like, hey, the cycle continues, right? Everything that is nothing new under the sun on this one,
Yeah.
to borrow from Ecclesiastes. So it's just like, yeah, it's almost as if people should, we're like Charlie Brown, we just keep expecting that somehow this time Lucy is not going to throw the football away and I'm not going to land on my back and the bitch isn't going to laugh at me. Like, are we, come on,
Yeah.
like, I feel like we've seen all this before and we should know a little better. Even if things are somewhat improved, I don't know. I think that it's kind of
Well,
important to consider that, hey, we've seen this sort of action before. I mean, even Dave pointed out, like, hey, haven't we seen this discussion before? Haven't we seen this cycle happen? I don't know, like a million times already. Which I certainly think is true. We have.
oh yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe we could learn a lesson and
Whoa.
realize that we've done this before.
Yeah, yo, it's true. No, I'm just looking at A's evil twin there.
Oh, wow, that's very, very kind.
Well, we'll get to it.
Prude is the
Oh,
true Charlie Brown. No, I still have hair on my head. I'm not the true Charlie Brown.
no, but
Although
you
I
bring
like
up
the musical "You're a Good Man," Charlie Brown. I do.
you 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 bring up a good point, Prude. That I wanted to clarify is that I think like the problem with like the okay, so there's the rhetorical thing about like the anti-women posting. I understand it, like, but in terms of like actual electoral issues, I think that there's a point where you can't really like welch in your principles. So, for example, when some like conservative grifter says like you're going to lose the election unless you blah 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 appeal to women, but appealing to women shouldn't entail welching on the principles of being like anti-abortion or being against certain other forms of degeneracy or whatever. Like I think, and this is the problem that a lot of like normie mainstream conservatard types have, where they're like, oh well, we have to appeal to a demographic, either women or minorities or whatever. So we have to like welch in our principles. That's not what I'm saying. I think that's a trap. That's like the ratchet that Prude accurately describes. But at the end of the day, in terms of like the other forms of rhetoric and like posting against white women, that's a different issue. But you shouldn't be expected to like welch on like core conservative or right wing issues just to appeal to a certain like any certain demographic. That's just
And I
silly.
mean, you
Yeah.
already witnessed that though, with like on the RNC writ large, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
the
Yeah.
post 2012 RNC, went from like stop trying. Like everyone's like, oh, we just need to cater to all these people, and it's like turns out that hasn't worked for you so far, despite. And again, it's the Charlie Brown syndrome. Like maybe this time, if we throw out enough Gibbs of our own side and we forgo our principles, they'll vote for us. And it's like turns out they really don't. I
Yeah.
mean, like the real notable exception was like the Rio Grande Valley in Texas in the
Mhm.
2020 election that was like, no, the economy's pretty good. We like our paychecks and we like less immigrants coming to our own communities. Which I mean, like the Rio Grande Valley is already super Hispanic anyway. But I mean, like the fact that
Mhm.
they went from like 80-20 Hillary in 16 to a almost the inverse for Trump in 2020 is an indication that like you can be is sort of, I think that Scott Greer had pointed out, like you can be a pretty nominally pro-white candidate on the issues and get other people to vote for you,
Yeah.
if you're attracting to like bread and butter wallet home econ issues. So it's just like, but no, I mean, like Ronna McDaniel's out, Trump's people are in, and like they already slashed a lot of the minority outreach stuff. And I mean, like to go back to Sam Francis's essay on like the Martin Luther King holiday and its meaning, turns out when someone actually represents your interests, people want to actually vote for you. Who would have
Yeah.
fucking guessed? But instead, I mean, like the GOP will probably fall apart into this like disgusting race for middle management, immigrants trying to like take over. We'll see how it goes. Um,
Oh
like the
god.
post-Trump GOP will be an absolute fucking disaster, and I'm not looking forward to what that looks like.
Hmm.
Things are going to have to be more focused on the local level, I think, going forward, as of course, like demographic change continues to destroy my country. But again, it's always difficult with these conversations because on one hand, like
A lot of it's fictional. A
my
lot of it's just online rhetoric. It's not reality. So,
but
I mean,
yeah,
it's
well,
reality to an extent, but it's not.
well,
Yeah.
that's the problem. Is like that's the perennial debate I have in my head. How much of this is a reflection of real life? Because
Or perception.
Twitter is simultaneously not real life, but it is real life. Because the discourse that you have online does trend to trickle into everything else: the news headlines, the chyrons, the institutions. But on the other hand, how much of this is just the steam and hot air where people go online to just engage in a form of digital escapism? And it's a very, it's hard, I think, to maintain a very fine. It's a tightrope to walk, because
Yeah.
sometimes there are people out there that I think sometimes are like way out there. But then you reconsider what they're saying and you think, well, maybe there's a point to this, or if I scratch underneath the surface, there's way more to this logic that I'm not comprehending outside the bombastic rhetoric. So I think
Right.
that there is an important thing to consider between the lines, and I haven't given this too much of a serious thought. Uh, I just think that there's a lot more to it than just the usual people talking past one another. And I mean, this was something that even was pointed out by broad nationalists, where all these like videos are like, "Oh, modern men are pussies," and it's like, well, a lot of, I mean, if anyone from like Morgoth's Review to younger Zoomers or can all accurately identify that the system is intrinsically anti-male, and people want to just walk away from it and not participate in a game that is clearly rigged against them, outside of like, again, patronage or using friendships and networks and things like that. It's indicative to me that it's going to be very difficult for anyone to, have a desire to like get into the rat race these days. The question that Ren pointed out was, is that, usually disaffected young men were a revolutionary force. And
Hmm.
nowadays it's certainly not that case anymore, at least for, of course, they make them out to be the violent extremists that they are. And the FBI does what it does, which is terrible. But it is a disaster writ large. Like I'm just, every day you walk into it in the online space and you are witnessing the after effects of like the Battle of the Somme, and it's just like there's craters and bodies and mud and blood everywhere, and you realize that there was no winning out of this. What did you get? A
Pretty
couple of
lonely in that
yards?
trench. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of yards, a couple hundred yards. How many guys died for this? And I know that's a terrible comparison to make, but it's just like the aftermath of this is uh, the landscape is unrecognizable with
Hmm.
that respect. And unfortunately, I think
Well,
that we're going to keep, talking past one another, or say, I'm the real you, I'm the real me. This is the real way to go forward. And the lack of, I mean,
right.
this is again, it's a semi permeable membrane. it's a social club, it's how it is. But it's also, I don't really participate in that, so it's kind of hard for me to both
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously care but also
Yeah, me
give you
neither.
a take. So maybe
Well,
we can nip it in the bud there.
well, there's something that Louis Cachet said that I wanted to address. He said the
Yeah.
dissident right offers nothing to women, maybe some limited e-clout, but nothing more. Leftism will always win out. The right wing asks a lot of you and offers nothing. There's no loyalty in the right, no patronage, no comfort, no financial incentives, no status. Well, that's
Yeah.
something that Arthur Chu actually wrote about. I actually said it in my book. He had that tweet about like things that are inherently weak, things that are inherently ask nothing of you will always win out over a lot of the. He was talking about like a lot of like the right wing values that
Oh, this
do.
was I think I pointed
Yeah,
that out also too in an article where he was just basically like, look, people like weakness. People
yeah,
will take the
yeah,
easy way out in the path of least resistance, and that usually means being a leftist or being
yeah.
just a passerby. And that's a
Right.
unfortunately he's right.
Unfortunately, he's correct. But if you live in a society where that's a reality, then it's like, is that a society really worth living in? Because the right wing does demand a lot of you, right? It does, like, maybe not in terms of like, um, it demands a lot of you on a different level than just materially. I think, like, a lot of these values and ideas demand a form of sort of like a higher spiritual hardness that I feel modern life disincentivizes you from, right? And I think that it is true materially what Arthur Chu said, which is that things that are very easy will win out over things that require a lot of buildup of the wisdom of the ages and cultivation of yourself and of a civilization. And in civilizations inherently will fall eventually out of the weight of maintaining them, right? But that being said, like he's saying that as a celebratory note, where someone like Oswald Spengler or someone like George Grant or someone like Tomby says it as a lament to say that actually weakness inheriting the earth is a bad thing. And that, yes, it's true by the laws of thermodynamics or whatever, that things that require less energy and less focus and less like inner fortitude will win out. But do you really want to live in that civilization? Do you really want to live in that society? No, you don't, because it's a society, it's terrible, right? I mean, you want to expect, I mean, listen, I'm a person who neglected my body for many years, right? And I suffer the consequences for it. And it's that harder to get out of it. You know what I'm saying? The point
Yeah.
being is that things that require more of you require a lot, and it requires a lot to dig out of. But it's easier if you start out from a level, whether it be personal fitness, whether it be intellectual fitness as well, right? If you start out early, then things come naturally, or it takes less time to get yourself at a level where you can go past your limitations. But if you're starting off, if you're digging yourself out of a trench, right? That's harder. And unfortunately, society as a whole, or rather civilization as a whole, is digging ourselves out of a huge trench. And that is going to require a lot more work than even what our ancestors faced, in my opinion. Because, I mean, I shouldn't say that, because our ancestors faced war and famine and mass social upheavals that certainly, maybe the comparison would be the internet, right? The mass adoption of the internet. But in terms of the transformation, say your grandparents, that there was a certain generation that lived from the horse and buggy all the way to the automobile and the telephone and the television, right? That's like, you can't comprehend that amount of social change, that amount of change in the world. But the point I'm trying to make is that that may be materially true, but every great thing requires a lot of arduous frustration and will and ability to overcome yourself. No great artist was ever, I mean, I shouldn't say that. There was a lot of great artists that became complacent later on in life. Um, but in terms of like actually getting there, a lot of great things require a lot of great sacrifice and will to overcome one's limitations. But unfortunately, a lot of modern living just isn't conducive to that mindset. And so, therefore, I think in the short term, the ideas of the political left will probably win out. But in terms of the long road, I think that I have to hope that God has a plan for us. You know what I mean? I have to hope that evil people will not win eventually. And so, whether that's foolish or not, I mean, who knows? But I don't know. I don't know. It is a powerful critique. I'm not saying that what Louis Cachet and what Arthur Chu said in that tweet. It is a powerful critique. But I just think that the society that where that critique will always be valid is not a society worth living in. So I don't know. But
No, I mean,
but in terms of the politics
I
of the
would.
dissident right, he is 100% correct. There's a fucking bullshit, man. It's all fucking mean girls for aging millennial fucking people that are obsessed over their cloud and their image, and so that is correct about the DR. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think that you're going to see. I think Dave talked about this a while back, but I think that he's got a point where it's just that the internet is going to be an open air insane asylum more so than
Yeah.
it already is as millennials continue to get to middle age, and it is going to be some of the ugliest lashing out of rage, frustration, and confusion that we have ever seen.
Missed opportunities. Yeah.
Well, yeah, missed opportunities of reaping what you sow, the consequences of licentious or just alternative lifestyles. It's all gonna. It'll. I don't want to say it'll come crashing down because people have been predicting that everything's gonna come crashing down
No,
for
it's
years.
a slow burn of decline. It's yeah.
But it's going to be a slow burn, whereas people get grayer and they notice how old they are. I mean, like imagine like seeing an Angela Bellicamino tweet on your timeline for like the next 10 years. It's going to be that. It'll be, Ludwig scale, 5-head, men and women, Norwood, 4s and 5s, angrily lashing out at one another for missed opportunities, railing against the fact that they chose the path of convenience. But unlike the prodigal son, they will not return to natural hierarchy because hierarchy is anathema to them and it's the antithesis of their existence. They will double down and rage out online like wild and dumb beasts in a land of evil men. And that's going to be exactly what we see on the timeline. And it's going to be that way for a lot of people that are even nominally on the right.
A lot of men are going to go crazy too.
Well, men will go insane, and so will women. And I mean, again, an open air mental asylum, which it already is, but now everyone has been let out of their padded cells and have been given rhetorical needles and tools to, stab each other and to force, fucking benzos down the other person's throat. Like I just
pretending to be 20 years old forever.
Yeah, like I'm 20 forever, and it's just like, honey, you're 45. 45 is still young. 45 is still young. No, it's not. And unfortunately, that's going to be the case, I think, for a long time.
45
in the
is still
future.
kind of relatively young. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, I'm referencing the whole.
Oh yeah.
The parents.
No, it depends how you carry yourself. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of 45-year-olds that are pretty happening, but it's like, it's how you like. I think if you're trying to LARP as a younger person, that's kind of pathetic. But like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just you got to learn how to.
The people who know how to age are usually the ones that are either successful, are parents, or have self-discipline in their bodies and know what they're doing.
Or have mental, well,
that and they have like good mental health, which again, that's something that we don't particularly do very well on this side of things either. In part because we sort of are in a position where we kind of are the antagonist of everything that the left does. But I mean, that also requires you to be, you have to create something. I mean, to exist via negativa can only work forever if you're always in opposition forever. If you want to rule, if you want to offer an alternative. And I mean, this is why, and I said this a while ago, and I know I got some heat for it, but I'm going to say it again. But like, why is the popularity of sort of like the right-wing bodybuilder sort of baposphere as perennially popular as it is? Because the offer of why settle when you can be better is a hell of a lot better of an alternative than to just waste away. And, regardless of whatever you think of him or that sphere, you can call it frustrating, you can call it Jewish, whatever, I don't care. I mean, like it's one of the oldest sales pitch in the world, right? Like, why settle when you could be better, and I think that that's something that is always going to come around to it. And, people want to change their Windows view. People want to change how they see themselves in the mirror. They don't like it when their mirror speaks and says all nasty shit about them. In the same way with the internet, and it's all there. And sometimes people will take the auto amputation side of being overstimulated online And some people will say, oh, like nothing ever happens, right? I think that that's kind of a form of auto amputation where it's like, nope, I'm not incorporating this news item into my Weltanschauung of how the world is going to go because I don't want to deal with worrying about it or my mental calculus. At the same time, that auto amputation becomes a very physical auto amputation, and they get groomed on like subreddit egg IRL, and all of a sudden, like they've
Yeah.
been, or even like the whole stories that have come out about like the runaway community, where it's like actually people that are helping kids run away are actually just sexually abusing them. Well, who would have fucking guessed? And
I'm helping trans kids run away. I'm an adult. I'm a fucking
yeah,
40-year-old helping trans kids run away from
you're a
home.
rapist and you
No,
should be
that,
shot. But
that's not in Minecraft for YouTube. That's not a Peter Pan fantasy that you've had because your mind has been distorted by chemicals and by abuse. You're being abused yourself, and it's really, yeah. That's, my God, man. You mean to tell me
yeah.
an old person helping young kids that are confused about their identity and their gender
You're
run away
telling
from
me an
home?
overweight 45-year-old with a male pattern baldness?
Like Brian Peck from Nickelodeon, oh,
Yeah.
you could stay over my house. It's what's funny is that I actually watched the maybe we should review it, Prude. The maybe I'll review it with Catherine. The Nickelodeon thing about Dan Schneider.
Mhm.
Everyone around Dan Schneider was abusive, but Dan Schneider himself was pretty I'm okay, I'm not gonna say it. He had a lot of problems too. But it's like, it's funny how they blew past the like actual abuse that was happening to like Drake from Drake and Josh,
Yeah.
just to focus on made up like Me Too and racism nonsense and anti Me Too feminism and racism nonsense about Dan Schneider, even though Dan Schneider did, and even like the interviewer, the researcher, quote unquote, from some like rag like Vox had to even admit that, well, we didn't find any actual abuse that Dan Snyder did, besides like being creepy and having a bunch of sex jokes, which isn't appropriate. I think some of the shit that they did on those shows was bad, but in terms, like, compare that, then they just hit you with Brian Peck like viciously abusing Drake Bell from Drake and Josh. So anyways, what was I going to say?
I'm down to review the documentary, Geo. It's just that I have no context for any of
You were never a Nickelodeon kid, Prude?
I grew up with Armed Forces Network. Like,
they didn't have Drake and Josh on the Armed Forces Network.
Not that I recall.
They didn't have the Amanda Show. You didn't watch the Amanda Show?
No, I didn't. I didn't grow up with any of this. Like, I grew up with Armed Forces Network and a Sky TV British cable box. So I mean, I watched a lot of British comedies and I watched some American stuff, but like, no, I really didn't.
I was more of a Teletoon kid. I never really watched Nickelodeon apart from like, I don't know, when it was on. But I had friends that did. But I was more of the cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have any context with this. Is it bad, however, that like my brain just but maybe this is due to just how the internet warps your sense of perception. But like, anytime I see like a very popular shtick that like, oh, so and so is an abuser, and it's like a very popular like Reddit tier meme, I'm always just like innately skeptical because like, oh, this is a safe target to hit. This is a safe, edgy thing to hit. And the same way, like, you had a great thread about the whole safe horny thing too. Like, this is all just safe, to be calling out.
I love my 7 feet tall muscle mommy. Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, that's still messed up in the head, bro. But that's like, if a warped sense of heterosexuality is the only thing that you're allowed to have, that's clearly pornified and all goon brained out, then like clearly you've been successfully psyoped. You are not immune to propaganda. You will not lick the abs. You will not find the 7 foot tall
vampirous woman.
Vampire, yeah.
A lot of those Nick shows were actually filmed in Canada. Like, Are You Afraid of the Dark? I used to watch that one. That was my favorite. I believe Ryan Gosling, that was his first gig as a child star, was Are You Afraid of the Dark, if I recall. But yeah, no, but anyways, my point, what was another point I was going to make? Oh yeah, about the abuse thing. No, yeah, it's very funny how oh man, I forgot my point. But oh yeah, the safe horny thing. Well, it really just shows that, any like natural desire that heterosexual men have is being demonized. But I think like there is always an element of the super ego. There is always an element of surveillance to desire, because people have desires that up until recently were not, shouldn't be expressed in public or shouldn't be, fed into. But because we live in the age of what Baudrillard calls the after the orgy society, where every single deviancy and every single desire is fed into, there's a demonization of what was considered normal, but not even like 20 years ago. So if you're like a normal, like I understand that there is a problem, and we've certainly critiqued it on the show with like the whole trad LARP thing. And like that is like, there's a lot of trad accounts who are prawn brained, and there's sort of like a prawn, like sort of hidden desire to it, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, there is like, my friend Momo had the best tweet. He said, a trans person demonizing normal, healthy sexuality, but saying that like you must be attracted to like 10 feet tall, muscular vampire woman hag. And it's like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. That's kind of like, this is what society's become. Like even today, I saw. And listen, I'm not a particular fan of this account because I guess she's a part of like the whole Red Scare scene. But do you know that Freddie Blassie girl on Twitter?
No, I don't.
Well, you probably seen her, right? And she had this tweet about like this video with these impossibles, these like fat impossibles talking about being women, right? The Transformers, Decepticons, you know what I mean, Prude?
Yeah.
And she's like, listen, it's very clear that there are men with a deviant sexual fetish invading women's spaces. And of course, all of them just descended on her and called her a TERF. And being TERF is being literally, to these people, like J.K. Rowling, right? Being a TERF is worse than actually being a neo-Austrian painter fan. Like actually being like a hard white right winger. It's like being a TERF is worse to these people than actually being a right winger, right? Because I guess with being a right winger, it's like, you hate trans people. Yeah. You're a right winger. Yes. It's like, but if you say that to J.K. Rowling, that you're evil right winger TERF, it's like, you know what I mean? Like for some reason it's more impactful to them. But it's like, I just saw that and I'm like, okay. And when you have that moment where it's like, listen, okay, not that I like this particular e-girl, but enough is enough. It's an accurate take. If you have like just like pretend that insane thing, I believe it was St. Anthony that said that there will be a time where men will go insane, and the man who is sane will be looked at as evil, and they will say, you are insane, you're not insane, something like that.
Yeah, you are not mad, you are not like us.
Exactly. You are not mad. You're not like us. Exactly. So it's just like there's insanity in the world, and it's just, anyways. No, I do not want to talk about the Bronze Age shoddy thing. Let's not talk about that. I do not want to talk about the.
I just wonder where Elon Musk's money was for Doug Mackey.
Exactly. But anyways,
that's all I have to say on that issue.
Oh boy, people are going insane, Prude. One last thing before the film Perfect Blue. Is it true what Anthony Blinken said that they want Ukraine to be a part of NATO?
They've been saying that since before the conflict.
I agree with AA. Nothing's going to happen from that. It's impossible.
I mean, let's see here. I mean, like Politico.eu says that despite these statements, there's no fresh pledge on membership. So it's the same discussion. They formally applied for membership in September of 2022. However, there's no pledge saying that like they're going to join. It's always this nebulous timeline as about maybe. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why people are freaking out over it. I've seen it all over Telegram and on the TL. Like, it's just, they've always wanted Ukraine and NATO. I think parts of Western Ukraine, I think when the war ends, Ukraine will be such a rum state that the Western part will have to go to NATO.
Yeah.
And there will be an armistice agreement. And the Eastern and the Southern part will definitely be part of Russia. It's not out of the likelihood that Western Ukraine, especially near Lvov and elsewhere, maybe not Kiev, but certainly the westernest parts of Ukraine will probably be a part of NATO or be some kind of like weirdo NATO protectorate. I just think it's nothing happening. Like, I agree with AA. Like, he's like, nothing's going to happen. Like, first of all, they don't meet the requirements because they're at war, so they can't technically join NATO. Not that the rules really matter, right? Because as we've seen with bombing the Iranian embassy, Israel bombing the Iranian embassy, the rules-based order doesn't really fucking matter. And I guarantee you that if I think I forget who said it. I think it was it may have been Martyr Made, or it may have been it was Argent. It was Argent on YouTube. He had this YouTube post where he said, the second that Iran retaliates to Israel, then you'll have the whole talk about the rules-based order and how dare you. But if you're part of that rules-based order, you can bomb other countries and provoke them with impunity. And it seems that America's not doing anything, although they say they want to do something about the issue with Israel and Gaza. But I mean, bombing the Iranian embassy in Lebanon and killing civilians, I mean, is that the rules-based order, Prude? I don't know.
All international rules-based orders are enforced by money and guns. So
yeah, and power.
I'm inclined sometimes to take the constructivist side of IR more seriously, because if anarchy is what you make of it, well, then the rules-based order is what you spend on it, and the rules-based order says, well, it's my way or the highway, so play along or get bombed, which has been the realpolitik of how that system works since ever. Let's not kid ourselves. Counter-revolutionaries were shot, put down, literature burned as trying to quell revolutionary fervor prior, during, and after 1848. I mean, it's sort of important to consider that with the whole Congress system, or the all that. This has been the way it's going to be. Also, though, it just really depends on whether or not Iran feels like it wants to do anything. Because I mean, hell, we killed Soleimani. By we, I mean the U.S. government. And Trump tweeted out its shitty JPEG compressed image of an American flag. But I mean, there wasn't major retaliation or mobilization in a way that would have been expected. I'm very curious to see what will happen in the next, couple of weeks. So I mean, only time will tell. I think it's still too soon, but it's important to consider whether or not Iran wants to push it. I mean, like, this isn't the first time they've been pushed around either. I mean, earlier last year, there were attacks on munitions facilities and some fabrication plants inside of Iran, which my gut, just makes me assume it's most likely an American or Israeli-led sort of operation. And inside Iranian territory. Like, this wasn't, in Syria or
there have been
Iraq
scientists killed in Iran by Israel.
So I mean, plus the whole Stuxnet thing during the Obama years. But I mean, like, I don't know. It really just depends on how much Israel has the opportunity to seize the momentum on that. Who knows? I mean, like, there's the potential for escalation is always there, but I think only time will tell.
Yeah, Lightning NC is correct. Iran has been incredibly cautious so far, not wanting to get dragged into a war, and I just think it's terrible foreign policy to let Israel just provoke them endlessly. But it's insanity. And like I say, the best quote I've ever heard was from Niccolo Salo. The rules-based order. There's no rule, there's no order, and it's not based. So what are you going to do? I think Iran is not taking the bait. I don't know if they could not take the bait forever. I think if there was major strikes in Iranian cities, like especially if they attack Qom or if they attack, Tehran, like it's all bets are off. But they can handle a few territorial places being targeted. But I mean, Iran's not going to take it because, they can't take it forever. I mean, the Arab world's already embarrassed enough as it is when it comes to this whole thing. So I don't know, man. It's fucking insane. And hopefully nothing will happen, but
yeah, I mean, that would be nice. But the other thing too is that there was what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, like, I think it's important that there was also really, really I don't want to say, well, I guess surgical would be the word, I guess.
Hmm.
I mean, like, no embassy staff was killed. It was explicitly military targets. Not to say
Oh,
that that
okay.
means anything, but I mean, if you're
But
trying to calculate, how do you respond to that? I imagine that that will be into consideration. Once there's more Iranian civilians getting killed, I'd imagine that would see some more serious
oh yeah.
expectation. But I would need to look more closely at all of the news and data that's in front of me, which I don't have because I haven't done any research yet.
You know what's funny is that I was actually I remember that CNN interview with Osama bin Laden in like 97.
Yeah,
He actually cited he said like it was when Israel bombed an Iranian embassy in Lebanon, but civilians actually were killed.
mm,
Um, this was before the second Intifada, and he used that in that video, that interview, as justification. Um, I remember that very clearly. He talked about that. Um, you know what's funny? You can interview Bin Laden, but you can't interview Putler. That's kind of fucking funny. Um, but no, that was like one of them. If Israel actually did bomb civilians in an Iranian embassy back in '97 or before '97, um, and of course during the Intifada in the early 2000s, there were plenty of civilians from Iran that died as well in
yeah,
various embassies. So I don't know. I think plus the Iranian leadership's quite different now. I mean, Ahmadinejad used to go up there and he used to talk about Israel and the Great Satan and all that shit. But you got to realize, like, Iran kept quite kind of quiet during the Gowat, right? Like, I mean, they knew the Americans were in the region. They didn't want to fucking pick any fights with them. And that the whole thing that Iran was the one funding global terror, that was all bullshit. Like a lot of the, you know who really funded global terrorism for many decades? The Saudi Arabians. But the House of Saud. So, but you can't talk about that. Anyways,
mm,
Prude, um, it's all bullshit. The Middle East, it's all just like fucking propaganda bullshit. It's like nobody really knows what's going on half the time. And you know what's funny though is that the Middle East is in a worse state than in the early 2000s when the Americans went in there. It's been 20 years and things are worse. So
yeah.
yeah, man. Except for Afghanistan, though. Except for Afghanistan. Ironically enough, the Taliban has managed to run Afghanistan more efficiently than the American government. You know, holy shit. That's man, that's crazy. Fuck. Oh, anyways.
You want to get to the film?
Yeah. Well, we're just gonna go down the millennium nostalgia route about the Go.
I jokingly tell people all the time in other interviews that, a lot of my political understanding of the world has been trying to deconstruct growing up during the global war on terror.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I mean, I've said this on the air, but like, my dad was at the Pentagon when 9/11 happened. We thought he was dead for most of the day. I mean, I fervently have a sort of nostalgic childhood love for George W. Bush, even though I don't like him. Uh,
Yeah.
I've been to a lot of Toby Keith USO tour concerts, both in the States and overseas. A lot of my life is about trying to make sense of, you know, the global war on terror and its impact on me, both in socialization and my understanding of the world, but also, like I don't know
Yeah.
what to do about it, which is a crazy thing to consider, with all due respect, just because, wow, that was my life. That was, and then of course I think the first kind of like I don't want to say red pills, but the first kind of real skepticism of it all is that Barack Obama gets into office and nothing changes with respect to our
Yeah.
foreign policy. You get the pivot to Asia, but like, oh, we had the surge. My dad was, a part of the surge. Spent quite some time away from us and trying to make sense of the world around us. It was very difficult, both living overseas in Germany, in the context of the war that had happened, plus the Cold War, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, despite this great black hope, right? Well, it only got worse, and
Yeah.
with this great transformation of the country that he wanted, had been ushered in and kickstarted there. And yeah, I mean, it's just a crazy thing to consider. But yeah, I really, maybe I should write more about it and
Oh
do
yeah.
something for it because, like I just said, most of my adult life has been trying to make sense of what the hell did I just grow up under, and how radical was that transformation. Which, I mean, I think it's very clear as day now that I'm older and I can maybe look back with a clearer sense of mind. But it was like, and I tweeted this out a while ago because someone talked about like Osama bin Laden being killed, and they announced it like at an MLB game and whatever, and how people were going nuts. I was in high
Mm-hmm.
school overseas when it happened, and all the white guys, like all the guys there, sons of military brats, all of us there. It was like we won the World Cup, like people had their faces painted, like nothing got fucking done that day at school.
I
And it
think
was
John
just
Cena
like,
announced it on SmackDown
yeah, he
the next
did. Yeah.
day. Yeah.
And so it's just like, wow, like this war is over, right? Like this so-called grand architect, this like, great Satan for, a progressive new 21st century America had been defeated. Like finally we'll win. And then we didn't leave. And then we stayed. And then we watched the end of the occupation of Afghanistan happen. And that
Mm-hmm.
was a disaster. And now we
Oh.
deal with the Taliban. And it's just, I don't know. I know that during the 2004 election, both John Kerry and George W. Bush were very cognizant that they did not want Iraq and Afghanistan to turn into another Vietnam.
Yeah.
One, because Kerry served and was a very famous peace activist through his medals, right?
Yeah, he threw his medals in the Potomac.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
and then of course, like, you have George W. Bush, who's very aware of it, served his time in the Air National Guard. And it was just like,
He was
okay,
snorting things during Vietnam.
well, who wasn't? But it's an important thing to consider. Like that comparison was very real. And now, of course, the war in Ukraine is going on, and then the comparisons about Iraq and Afghanistan are happening. The whole forever war discussion is still happening. I don't know. I could rant about this all day, and I still wouldn't get to any coherent conclusion because, again, what has changed? Everything has changed, but so much still feels the same. And that's a particularly interesting sort of point to get to. But with that, let's go back in time. We're now going to go back to 1997. I made Geo watch this again. I rewatched it for the purposes of this. The first time I watched it was like almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I had a friend in high school who tried really, really hard to make me like an anime guy. Never really could get into it. I thought this movie was far more interesting. But we are reviewing Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue, 1997 film. Runs for about 77 minutes. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts, Leo?
Well, first of all, is that true, Operative Kane? You were in Afghanistan, 3 deployments? Holy crap. So we do have an Afghan veteran. One day we will talk about that because it's very funny how the U.S. sort of lost sight of Afghanistan during the 90s and they let the Taliban just do whatever they want after they fought the Soviets. But anyways, okay. Perfect Blue is truly, if you are going to watch any anime that is serious, Satoshi Kon is always like one of the go-tos, right? In terms of anime films. But Perfect Blue, unlike a lot of, like, I know a lot of people focus on Paprika because it was truly a visual feat and it's sort of confusing and all that. It's very surrealistic. But Perfect Blue, like a lot of different anime at the time, especially like Serial Experiments Lane, really did was a very good barometer of the things that were to come in the coming decades in the internet age, with the way that otaku culture would manifest itself and the way that there is a sort of postmodern ambiguity to all things. And it truly is a masterpiece. I think it's probably his masterpiece. A lot of people say Paprika or the other, I forget the other films he did, but I love Perfect Blue because it's raw, it's sexy, it's hair raising. It has a lot of different things that probably wouldn't get made nowadays. It's got a lot of very important commentaries on the nature of the living within a society of the spectacle and fandom, and the way that perceptions of reality slowly degrade over time during the age of mass communication. And so Perfect Blue really is, in my estimation, one of the most transcendental animes that there ever was made. So I quite like it. And there's a lot of parts that are kind of like very, kind of edgy and appealing. And but let's go through the basic plot, Prude, if people that don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was about to say, like, if you want the best visual spectacle, yeah, you should out of all Satoshi Kon's work, like, go see Paprika. I mean,
Yeah.
all this too is hand drawn animation, so I mean, like, I can't imagine how much work that was done for like the parade scene in that movie. But that's a whole other discussion.
Oh man,
But
yeah.
no, so like the basics for this film, is sort of Geo looks at is going to be you're going to see about fandom, celebrity dumb, the an industry that encourages envy and literal backstabbing, as we'll see in the film. But I don't know. So I mean, this tells the story of a young, early 20s woman who's sort of part of a young teen pop idol type of band, and she wants to make the transition from being a singer into being an actress.
Serious
Um,
actress,
a
yeah.
serious actress. And unfortunately, along the path, not only is she going to be taken advantage of by the system, but she's also going to be stalked, and she's going to lose track of time. And we learn, and I'm not going to spoil it or anything, but well, it's a nearly 30-year-old movie. Maybe fuck
Mm.
it, I will spoil it. But I mean, at the same time, right? Like we also see early access to the internet. This did come out in the late 90s. Websites and URLs, and just making your own homepage, and the fandom aspect, and how that can lead people to do very dangerous and stupid things. And also, it's a great red herring too, because of who's the actual killer slash stalker in the film. Because you're given like the perfect setup for who the actual garbage stalker is for this girl. And he looks ugly. He's the internet addict. He's got the website
He's
and
the proto
everything. Like
incel obsessed
he's
with the
the
team pop
he's the
idol.
proto like he is sort of the early stereotypical just like internet fanboy, to a point where he will go out of his way to buy all the magazines that show dirty images of his favorite idol because no one else should have it but him. But yeah, I mean, it's also a great way to sort of look at disassociation, how people lose track of time and senses. And I mean, the film does a really good job at playing with your own understanding of what's actually happening in the film, because our main character will go through and realize that she's lost track of time. She's relying on a fan website to tell her what she actually did that day.
Right.
But then in these dream states, they'll be referenced in reality, so you don't even know what's going on. It's kind of like uh, like Shutter Island, like the
Well,
everything
inspired
makes.
Inception, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so you've got like an Inception slash Shutter Island type deal where you don't know what's being played for and who's taking advantage of the situation. I mean, this film, you really get to enjoy it on a second or third watch through when you get to see everything click into place.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's also got a great scathing critique of sort of worship that you see in like places like South Korea or in Japan. And at the same time, like with even in America, right, like trying to get into the industry for acting and whatnot leads to young people getting taken advantage of. I mean, it's kind of fitting that you mentioned the
Yeah,
Nickelodeon,
Nickelodeon Dan Schneider thing,
the whole
yeah.
Dan Schneider stuff, because like yeah, the backdrop turns out yeah, a bunch of sleazy perverted people work there. And then also you get to see the reaction from like various fans. Like we see these recurring cast of like fans that are all just like, yeah, like no one cares about her now. Like the pop idol is doing great as a duo instead of a trio. Like it must suck to be a fan of hers, because now she's doing all this actress stuff and it's all sketchy, bloody, sexual crime thriller dramas with
Yeah.
psychological profilers. So uh, there's a lot of good stuff in here, and I think that's one of these movies that has only gotten more relevant with time, just because I mean, like celebrity gossip on Twitter, right? Like if you
Mhm.
incur the wrath of K-pop people, it
Oh
doesn't matter
god.
what it's about. I mean, it was funny because like a few, like I want to say 2 years ago, I think there was a fight between like the Taylor Swift fandom and like the BTS people about music and the industry. And it's just like you're watching two camps that are parasocially addicted to a group or a person fight out on behalf of the honor of said group or person. Uh, and I guess maybe the social media managers for the respective groups are like, oh, well, this is good for engagement, and it
Mhm.
doesn't really consider that hundreds of thousands of people are fighting over inane, innocuous fandom. And it's fandom all the way down. And this film kind of covers it very early on, and it's a good. That's why I have the subtitle for the stream today being "Early Internet Panic," because it reminds me of a lot of movies that came out from hackers to a lot of
Mhm.
Western movies about the internet, about just what is this technology? I mean, even in
Existence,
yes,
Videodrome, yeah.
yes, yes. I mean, even like the X-Files too, right? Like,
Mhm.
what can the internet do for you, and how do we find people? And oh, this anonymous guy says this is our source or whatever, and it's
My favorite meme is the Soy Jack meme where it's like Mulder and Scully pointing back to an alien dancing. It's
yeah.
like Soy Jack, look at the alien. I don't know why I find that meme so funny.
So true, though. It's so true.
So
And,
true.
and now no one takes it seriously at all because we can just make shit up on the spot. It's fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
remember when the truth was out there, and turns out the truth is out there with the government trying to fake Isla Maus with like those weird Mexican concrete looking aliens they had in like
Oh
those
yeah.
caskets with like the Walmart, humidifier monitor. It was. I'm asking for a little effort. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah.
I'm asking for a little bit.
Back
I,
in the
I
day,
want
they put more
I want
effort
better
into it.
psyops, damn it. I want better psyops. That's all.
I
But
remember in
no,
Clifton Hill, they used to have the Alien Museum. That looked way more convincing than
right?
you know. But anyways, I still believe aliens are a thing. Anyway, they're demons. No, but
So true.
anyways,
They are.
oh man, Perfect Blue really does encapsulate different demographics of people that are caught in media, like sort of like media mania. I forget the exact clinical term, but the main character, Mima, like
Yeah.
she's experiencing every thought and feeling about her life through the internet and through fandom and through her own celebrity in this fan website. Her assistant helper Rumi, which is important later on, she's also, as we discover, caught in that same cycle. Of course, the fans themselves, represented by the stalker. What was his name? The creepy
I don't know
guy.
if I don't know if we have a name for the stalker.
Mm,
I don't think he has one. I mean, he's just but I mean, he's depicted as exactly like a red herring, like messed up teeth, like
yeah,
graying skin, long unkempt black hair. His eyes are you only see one eye, and it's kind of like bulging out.
yeah.
And it's not really until the end when he meets his end
Hmm.
that he actually looks like a normal human being. It's only when
Yeah,
he dies does he look human. Which
yeah.
is, I think, a really nice touch. But I don't think he's given a name, or at least I don't remember him being named.
No, me
I
neither.
watched it with, and I haven't seen it with the dub. I watched it with subs on, so I don't know anything about how it
Yeah, I
comes out in
watched it with
English.
subs. I don't watch the dubs. No.
Yeah, so there you go. We're subs people. We're subs people over here at the Digital Archipelago for all two reviews of anything Japanese that we've ever had on the show. This is the
Yeah.
second time. The first time was
Maybe we'll review
Serial
an Ozu
Experiments
film
Lane.
one day. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe you have to pay us.
Yeah.
But so no, I mean, like it's particularly interesting. She's trying to make this transition, and you're also getting like that very subtle. I don't want to call it feminist, but I think that it's just a genuine point to make that like the male you
Male
know
gaze.
the male gaze, but like the male manager is like, yeah, let's push her to do all this like sketchy stuff because he's also thinking about
Sexual,
his own
violent. Yeah.
career, so there's a point where like she's now leaving the pop idol, scene. She's trying to stop being a teen idol, and now she's moving on to be a quote unquote actress, and she's part of a psychological crime thriller where she's initially given like a one scene guest star role. Her male manager pushes her to get more into it, further and further in, and this leads to a series of escalations where she's filming a rape scene, and she's
She
clearly
crosses
not
the red
having.
lines about nudity and about sexual
Yeah,
violence. Yeah. It's a gang rape scene. And it's like very explicit stuff that like you wouldn't find in any Western animation, especially nowadays. But in a way, it's meant to make it as a critique of that sort of reality of being a young woman in the entertainment industry, being pushed. Your buttons are constantly being pushed. You're
yeah,
being preyed upon, and you're forced to do things that you, as a wholesome teen pop star, would never think of doing. Like again, mentioning the Dan Schneider documentary, like this is Amanda Bynes, like 100%, you know what I mean? Like it's that same reality. So she definitely is being experienced. She's going the full gamut of being a young woman in the entertainment industry. And yeah.
so at the same time, we're given two sort of main manager cast members. We're given a male and a female. Later through the film, you'll notice that Rumi is her name. She is an older woman. She is overweight. She used to be part of the idol scene, and you kind of get the realization that she's very jealous that she didn't make it. And
Mhm.
it's like, for those who can't do, they teach, or for those that can't do, they manage. So I guess in this industry, this older woman
She's like her
has,
momager.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's like a momager. Like, we do not see Mima's parents at all throughout this film. They're just on the phone. And as we notice, as Mima makes this transition, like, she's getting attacked. Someone
Mhm.
randomly faxes her, this like very schizophrenic message that just says "traitor" all over in various in the Japanese characters. And then her mom slash mom manager, it's a good term, right? She's introducing her to the internet. She gets this love letter about a fan website called Mima's Room, and throughout the film, we start getting Mima into these like disassociative states. She's in a fugue state. She doesn't know what she did that day. She's reliant on the website itself to tell her what she did. At the same time, you got like creepy phone calls, and then all in the backdrop of this, every person that Mima begins to associate in the
Like
industry as she starts doing more sketchy and scandalous
it's
things.
schizophrenia meeting the internet age. It's mental
Oh
illness
yeah,
meeting the minute. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's the real internet disassociation. Like, what I'm relying on the internet to tell me what's happening in real life, and so her whole schema has been warped about, oh, what did she do that day? Like, there was a post on the webpage where she says, oh, well, I always leave the train with my left foot going forward, to a point where, like, I think it's like an hour into the film, like, she's consciously um aware of that, and then like
Mhm.
she breaks down running, and she's losing track of her sense of time and herself. She's messing up lines. She's gotten herself into scandalous situations where even the other girls from the former pop idol or trio Cham are just like, yeah, she's taking photographs with a guy that always convinces women to do like full frontal nudity. And turns out she does it. And
Very Harvey Weinstein casting couch type of shit
you want
going
to
on.
be a
Yeah.
star, don't you? You want to
The
be a
Harv
star.
dog. Yeah.
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 Well,
No, but it's funny that me and Default actually talked about this last computer room about like from the beginning of the internet, mental illness was always there in terms of various groups that were trying to find camaraderie that were affected by mental illnesses. Um, the internet as a sort of conduit or a producer of various dissociative identity disorders, the ones that Mima was going through in Perfect Blue. Um, and like I say, the animation style, she is very sexy and she's got that teen J-pop idol type of vibe going on. But as time goes on, she's also experiencing a condition that was certainly accelerated by the internet age, which is the gang stalking, targeted individual phenomenon, where she's seeing in this website things that nobody else could possibly know in the privacy of her own home, unless she knew someone. Then she starts to formulate that people were spying on her, and so on and so forth. And so then you also have this very destructive attachment around surveillance, around certainly surveillance that becomes internalized. She's trying to break and disrupt, and she does crazy things throughout the film, like she speeds off with the car and so forth. And so she's trying to sort of break the cycle of that surveillance, but at the same time, she grows this very unhealthy identification to her own fandom and to her own celebrity, and and certainly the fans themselves, like the way that media is depicted around these J-pop stars. And of course there's always an overt sexualization there.
oh
There's
yeah.
always an overt, like, Oedipal complex, or in this case an Electra complex to her own stalkers, her own celebritydom. And yeah, so this really is like a theory cell type of animation. But anyways, should we spoil the film in terms of like what's
Well,
actually
yeah. I mean, the
happening?
film came out in '97. If you wanna go see it, I would recommend it. But we'll,
Yeah.
we'll just spoil it. So like the actual stalker that we think is like sort of like the very overt red herring, where it's kind of like when you watch Law and Order and they think you get the guy in the first 5 minutes, and you're like,
Mm,
no, it's not
nope.
you. Because with Law and Order, like they get the black guy in the first 5 minutes, like, no, it's not you, because it's Law and Order. They're gonna find some rich white guy to be the real problem.
Yeah.
But in this case, like the very sort of stereotypical gray skinned, like neat is now he's not actually it. It's her manager Rumi who is the stalker. We've got clearly like she's been recording conversations. That's why she knows so much of what's going on. She is there all the time. She knows exactly what she did because she's the manager. She's the
Yep.
mom, and she's been taking advantage of the disassociative state. And so later on, the climax of the film is when you really find out that that's the case. Because it's left very deliberate that you don't know it's her until like the last 15 minutes. And you're given this beautiful scene, this chase scene where like Rumi's trying to kill her, and
She's
she's
going
all
crazy.
dressed up like the idol that she used to be. But for our protagonist, she has been seeing her as this disassociative other, as a pop star, as the idol self that she once was, moving around and calling her out for being unclean, filthy, and tarnished. The emphasis that we only want like pure, virginal type of idols. And so once you start doing the nudity and the sexual stuff, it's over for you. You're a whore. You're nothing more than that. And idols don't need to have tarnished reputations. And then there's some really great animation where like she's running, and you see her reflection along the glass, and like Mima's running away from the idol with the quick like little pickaxe type deal or ice pick. And Rumi, of course, like still like the face is the idol, but in the reflection you see like the fat, chubby, like mid-30s woman running after her trying to kill her. And like it's really good, visual stuff. Like it's well directed. I quite liked it.
Yeah, like so basically in Perfect Blue, Mima is being chased or being pursued by a sort of like animus image or anima image of her own psyche.
Yeah.
That's then projected into real life as a ghost figure that you don't really know is a ghost, or maybe it's a creation of her own dissociative identity disorder. And this version of herself is the slutty Hollywood ran through super cool murderous type of woman. And there's a sense of like, oh, is my alter ego killing these people, like her
Yeah.
manager and so forth, or her the producer? But really, actually, it's all Rumi doing all of this. And I think that there is a sense of like, is it
And
real? Is there
Rumi's
a ghost?
murders are actually mirroring the murders of the show that she's
Yes.
that Mima's
Yeah.
on.
So
So
again,
it
another
throws
relation
her
to
off again
media.
into that false consciousness
Yeah.
fugue state that she's in.
To where the detectives think that Mima is actually doing this because it's mimicking the murders on the show.
Yeah.
So there
Because
is like a lot.
it stops going from, oh, Mima's just jinxed or cursed, because like the first thing that happens, right, that is like the real sign of escalation for Mima and everyone else, is that she's doing the very first scene where she's got like one line, and oh, the fan mail came in, and inside a letter that's actually for Mima, like there's a small like bomb inside of the letter that blows up.
Mhm.
It's like a small firecracker that wounds the mail manager's hands. Just like,
Kaczynski-esque, baby's
yeah,
first
and it's just
Kaczynski.
like, listen, buddy, like this is a threat. The next one will be a real like explosive, like, don't
Mm.
do this. And he's like, it's just a mindless prank or whatever, because he's so focused on his career. He's accepted it as an occupational hazard. And he's just like, listen, the actresses are what makes money. We make jack shit on CD and record sales. Like, this is the way to go forward, and we're gonna do that. And at the same time, Rumi is pushing Mima to see that, like, listen, like, they don't, like, because you've left, like, look at how well the group is doing as a duo. Like, they're actually on the charts. They're on the top 100. They've got a podcast, radio type show, and they don't need you. And at the same time, like, this implanted sense of, resentful psyche is now in Mima's mind, and she's seeing herself being part of the duo as their regret. Is she making the right decisions? But she's willing to go forward with it because this is what she decided to do. And she's left, and she's like just gaslit throughout the entirety of the show, or the entirety of the movie, that none of this is real. How much of it is real? The fish are dead in her actual apartment, but then we see that she's being awake in a room that's exactly like hers, where the fish are alive, and everything's just like the way it was. And again, that
And
disassociation.
fish are always a symbol of like fertility and fortune in Asian cultures. So yeah.
Yeah, and oh, they're dead. She doesn't know how much time has been going on, you know. So
She's
again,
ran through.
yeah, right. She's well virtually, but also like very publicly ran through because she does film a rape scene for the psychological thriller show that she's in, and the writer is like, well, we'll just make Mima the killer. Like we're this will be like great twist for this guest character to actually be the murderer, and of course Rumi kills her, and all of the killings that have been on there have been very all the eyes are plucked or stabbed out.
Again, another symbol of perception.
The
Yeah.
genitals are stabbed, as we see with one of the directors of the television show is brutally murdered with like the pick stabbed in the back, the eyes,
Yeah,
the
he leans
groin.
over to get the pizza,
Yeah,
pretending to be a pizza man, and just like it's
yeah.
it's
It's
brutal.
a
Yeah.
pretty gruesome scene where she just like stabs him in the eye, and it was really well shot too. Not the whole gruesome murder part, but like the way that it was shot deliberately for Rumi to be the pizza person. Like you don't know it's her. Like you
Yeah, you
couldn't
don't know it's
tell
her.
because
Yeah,
it's
you
not a
think.
fat person. You
Yeah.
think it's some random man. Like you think it's the stalker, and like he does the whole. Uh, he subverts the Chekhov's gun. I thought pretty well. It's not the stalker. And of course, Mima's in such a fugue state that she doesn't know what's going on because he's got his own fandom. The real Mima's been talking to me, which we eventually learn is Rumi towards the end. And so you have this whole elaborate attempted rape scene between like the fan
Who's
and
driven to a
Mima.
mania because he thinks that Mima is talking to him. Yeah.
Yeah, she thinks he's talking to her. Like, there's a great scene where he's in his like goon cave battle station, and there's posters everywhere, and the posters talk
He
to him.
buys up all the magazines of her nudes with her
Yeah,
nudes in
so no
it.
one else can
Yeah.
have them. They're just for him. So you have like the hyper obsessive like fandom. And then of course you have like the regular fans that are like dismissive of her attempts to be like more adult. And then at the same time, like the mommy manager is just killing anyone that is, enabling Mima to go on this career change. And it
Yeah.
culminates in a really great, did this actually happen type scene? Did it not? Because this leads into a chase in the busy city streets at night, and of course we have a stabbed like early 20-something-year-old girl who's in raggedy clothes, torn, stabbed up, almost nude, running through the streets and of Tokyo, and no one is hearing her call out that she's being like attacked with an ice pick or an umbrella. And you're just like, how much of this is actually happening? How much of this can we rely on? And
Well,
then of
what
course
it
you get a
is,
great
the
ending.
shadow
Let's see.
self of Mima is
Yeah,
chasing her, and she's blaming the shadow self for a dissociative identity for killing all of these men, or for posting this stuff online, and or talking to this super fan stalker. But then of course we know that it's Rumi, but in the meantime there is that sort of complex. Is it a real spirit? Is it just her shadow alter ego? Is there like a Fight Club thing going on where it's like Tyler Durden's like the man, right? He's the Giga Chad. He does everything. But then we discover it is Rumi. But yeah, there is like sort of that dissociation between the shadow self that is then projected on the technological apparatus upon the inherent nature of celebrity and acting and things that are conducive to a split personality, such as what the modern fandom
yeah.
is, right? But then we discover that it is actually just her jealous manager, and she goes crazy. And but even like you said, even the fight scene, do we even know that that's real? It seems that they're in there throughout the whole film. They are contained in their self, their sort of their little world that is self-contained. And there is like the outside is just a pantomime or an image. They're like in a firmament in a way of their own fandom.
Well, that's why I made the comparison to Shutter Island, right? Because you
Yeah.
have the doctor who's like trying to play as Leonardo DiCaprio's partner, and he doesn't know how to like get his gun out from his
Yeah.
holster, and like so you can tell that like this is all kind of for show. Because I mean, like, there are two scenes that get repeat. I mean, there are numerous scenes that get repeated, but like two scenes that stick out is that like Rumi's visiting Mima in her apartment, and like she's got the cake and the tea, and this happens more than once, and she's just like, well, I haven't seen you in so long, it's so nice to see you. And she's like, well, what do you mean, Mima? I was just here yesterday. And then of course, like, is this her apartment? Is this the actual one, or is this Rumi's place? And she has been so disassociated from the world and contained inside of this like little asylum, little playground for Rumi to mess with her, that she breaks the teacup, cuts her hands open, and she's like, is the blood even real? Like, what part of the world am I in? And it's a really good sort of breakdown of just like how much she's been manipulated, how much control is there, and it plays so well that she's part of a psychological thriller. And like the conclusion to like the TV show is dissociative identity disorder, like the multiple personas and reaction to trauma, and all of a sudden, like, so she kills. And so, like, yeah, she's assumed her sister's identity to be a model on the TV show, but really, that's all just telling us that Rumi has become Mima in order to kill and to prevent this image and being a fully actualized woman, because she didn't make it in the industry. And so I have to kill anyone that's going to get in the way of me living vicariously through this like 21-year-old girl. And it's really good.
And keep in mind that Rumi was broken up when she started to do those grape and nudity scenes, because it violated that image of the pure innocence that she was projecting onto Mima. That was another thing too, is that she was like, "Are you sure about this? I can't believe you're doing this. I thought you said you didn't want to do this." And it really is sort of like your pretension of that celebrity, of that, is being violated. It's like, imagine like your favorite e-girl does OnlyFans. It's like, you can't, it's.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I make reference in commentary about the whole like girl next door fantasy. The girl next door fantasy is real for like, I don't know, $12 a month on OnlyFans for some people, and they'll pay extra to get it because that's sort of the way that it is. Like their stock. I mean, like the purity aspect disappears because people will accept a simulacra of it. They'll accept a facsimile. They'll accept a something that looks similar, even though it is not real, in order to facilitate the fantasy. And I mean, for Rumi, she's willing to actually take it further and kill the fan, kill the male manager, kill like the director, and just stab and mutilate whoever is part of this whole system, even the people that she's worked with for years. Because for her, it's the idealization, it's the actualization of her own fantasy that matters above anything else. Because like we see her and she's already not an attractive looking woman. Her eyes are very spaced far apart. She's overweight. We don't know how old she is, but I mean, like, you hear very early
40s.
on 40s, late 30s,
40s, 50s, yeah, even, yeah.
But like, so towards the end we see her in her full craziness, because again, we see this like overweight middle-aged woman, like, and you can the animation is well done to where like you can see
she like rips the suit, that the pop idol suit, she like rips it to get into it. Yeah,
she's overweight, and like you can see it in her legs and her arms and her face as she's moving and running, trying to kill the protagonist of the story. And again, like, you see the full crazy, she could lose some weight, right? And you see the full insanity play out, that like she herself, a product of like the whole idol industry, and she is years later working in the same meat grinder, ready to kill and just snap, because again, someone who has the makings of success is wanting to be an actress. And of course, it does end with the whole discussion about I'm real. And what is reality? And of course, our Rumi is in an asylum type deal, psychiatric hospital, and she visits and gives flowers. But they're like, she can't break out of her own, false persona of being a pop idol, and she'll be like that forever. Like, she'll never really be herself again. But whereas
especially in Japan, once you cross the line of like posting nudes, it's over. So you can't go back to the pop idol world. Yeah, it's like K-pop in Korea. Like, as soon as a K-pop star posts nudes, it's over, right? So
but and I mean, like, I don't have any relation to that because I don't listen to a lot of music that's in other languages. Like, I don't know a heck of a whole lot about anything with relation to K or J-pop whatsoever.
It's not about the music, Prude. It's not about the music.
Oh, I know. It's about the girls, and it's about like these androgynous like male Koreans that are that has its own spurious reasonings behind it. But like, it's about the girls. I get that. It's about the cult of personality and not really so much the music. And I mean, that can be the way for some stuff here in America, but I don't think it ever has been as that way in a long time here in the US compared to overseas. I don't know.
Yeah, it is more about the music.
I have the music taste of an early 2000s like shit lip hipster. So like, I don't I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I'm not the guy to go to for music.
There is some J-pop that there is quite a lot of good music, like in terms of what they put into it. K-pop, total trash. It's not about the music. J-pop does have quite a bit of like very good producers or good ghost musicians or session musicians that do a lot of good stuff. K-pop, not really. K-pop is just pure, like, just hyper capitalist military intelligence agency trash. But no, J-pop is a different beast because J-pop still has quite a bit of authenticity to it. Woodpit says venti. She has venti eyes. What are you talking about? Okay, first of all, why do people ragging on Brittany Venti looks?
No.
Brittany Venti looks good. Okay, I will not tolerate Brittany Venti slander on this podcast. Sorry, Prude. I'm sorry.
Don't mention e-girls.
I don't agree with some of Brittany Venti's takes, but I know that Bizlet was trying to go after her a little bit the other week. But it's like, I don't know. I think Brittany Venti looks good. But anyways. Get out of the coal mine, you. Come on. Anyways, what was I going to say? Oh, yes. So someone mentioned, who was it? I think it was Woodpit as well that mentioned where is it? Is it Woodpit that mentioned it? Basically, it's like single white female. Yes. Did you ever watch Single White Female, Prude?
No.
That's a good film as well. It's basically like where it's with two roommates that one is like jealous of her lifestyle and her boyfriend, and she's like the mousy brunette, but then like she wants to take over. I believe she's blonde or whatever. But it's like that. It's like single white female is like you want the perfect life or what you perceive as the perfect life of the other woman, to where you're trying to like subtly undermine her and like turn her and like basically make her insane to like sort of move into her life and then take over her life and her boyfriend and everything. Yeah, Single White Female is a great film, but a lot of the issues of around that same dynamic of the splitting of the personality of idolizing someone for who they are now kicking into gear in the internet age. Perfect Blue really preempts a lot of the issues that we face now, and that's why it's a legendary film. But yeah, are you looking up the synopsis?
I am. I just was skimming the plot on Wikipedia. Yeah, it does feel very similar to this, and that came out in '92. I wonder if there was any kind of
probably.
I don't know. I haven't seen any Satoshi Kon interviews or discussions so about what his influence was. But I mean, it's not as if there isn't a whole genre of sort of like the imitation complex or like jealousy being acted out to where I become what I fetishize, or and I mean, like, hell, we see that today with like AGP and all sorts of other disgusting porn trends. So I mean, it's not, you know, what and I think even Mary Harrington wrote about that, where it's just like some people just become the girlfriend, and it's like,
oh man,
the consequences, right, of that too, like the fandomization and the, you know, pornographic consequences of certain idealizations. So I mean, like, again, like, we can implant this consciousness in you that really the only way to like succeed and be happy is just to become the thing that you allegedly can't have. And I mean, in this instance, it's a little more, I don't want to say tame, but I mean, it's not as self-mutilation. It's more like, oh well, she murdered a bunch of people, and she's fucking insane, but it's not like there's this mass onset of trends from pornography, media, television, the state, and various other pharmaceutical companies that are like, actually, no, you can just become the woman, you know? But I mean, this goes back to, I mean, even in the 90s, right? Like, and this is a conversation I was in a GC that I'm in, and I'm not in very many, so I'm trying to remember which one, but it was about how even in like the 90s, whether it be like the whole Will and Grace thing or like with Seinfeld, like there could be made gay jokes, but you know, as they said in the Seinfeld thing, not that there's anything wrong with that, despite the fact that there are plenty of things wrong with it. But you know, you could make fun of them as long as you never opposed the system, and that was always how it goes. So that you make fun of things until they're in charge, and now you can't make fun of it, and that's always the way that power dynamics operate. And I mean, whereas with this movie, and again, obviously from the East, from Asia, from things that I don't have a full understanding from, I can see where things would go in that respect with the idol worship and how far that can go and
Hmm.
how cutthroat that is. But at the same
Yeah.
time, right, like it's a very good thriller, and it's something that you could definitely appreciate on a second or third watch.
Yeah.
Like a couple of days or a week or so later, because there's always new details to point out with that respect.
Yeah. Someone made an AI edit of Elaine Bennis as an art hoe, just a hipster art hoe, and people were like losing their minds over this
Mm,
a few days ago. But Satoshi Kon, it's actually crazy how prolific he is because he has an uncredited artist. Um, he was an uncredited artist that worked on Akira, the film Akira,
yeah,
and he did 3 episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures,
yeah.
and he did a bunch of other ones too. So yeah, he's very prolific. I mean, I don't know why he stopped making full films in like 2006. I think he made
Because
a few TV shows.
he would die of cancer.
Oh, he's dead?
Yeah, he died at like
Shit, man.
46.
Holy crap.
Yeah, he did not. He unfortunately did not live long.
I didn't know he died. Fuck.
Yeah, he died in like I want to say what 2010.
What's with all these animation people? Like, what's with all these like manga people dying? Like, the creator of
Well, I mean,
Berserk died. He was
he
only
died of.
50.
I want to make sure I get it right, but like he did die of cancer if
Yeah.
I recall correctly. It was
46 years old. That's it.
yeah. And I
Oh
mean he
my
was gonna
god.
work in it was pancreatic cancer. So I mean like it was kind of done in that respect, but he was gonna work on Dreaming Machine, but that's gone forever in that respect. But yeah,
Wow.
died of pancreatic cancer, which that's a really shitty way to go, to say the least.
Man. That's crazy.
Ugh. But I mean, we don't review a lot of stuff that's Japanese on the show. This is like the second time that we've done it, but both shows I think
Mhm.
have only gotten more relevant with time, and I would recommend this film. So, which is a very rare thing for me because I've spent a lot of my youth in telling people I'm not an anime fan. I mean, I've seen a few things. Like I've seen Steins Gate, I've seen a few other things, but like, yeah, this is good. This isn't something I watch regularly, but if you were to put on a Satoshi Kon film, I would say, yeah, this is fine with me.
Yeah, but it is funny how this was made in 97
Yeah,
and the Japanese really did have a predictive power in terms of how far the internet was going to go in terms of invading our personal lives. Um but it's funny, but even like the graphic nature of it, he really does take a lot from Akira and like a lot of other show various other animes that have that very visceral nature to it. I'm just reading, apparently Darren Aronofsky was also inspired by Perfect Blue or wanted to make a remake of it. um was inspired for it in terms of Requiem for a Dream. It's funny, Requiem for a Dream does have a lot of those very disassociative dream like fever dream like scenes, like the one with his mother. You ever
yeah.
watch Requiem for a Dream, Prude?
Once. It's been a
Yeah.
while.
It's all you need is just once. That's it. That's not a film you want to see again. You know what I mean? It is. It's like it does. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Aronofsky does rip him off repeatedly. But what else here? Yeah, it is funny how he does have there is if you are an anime fan or if you're not an anime fan, there's a lot to Perfect Blue, and there's a lot of different things that have come from other things. Um, People like say Seven, Silence of the Lambs. Like there is, yeah. I mean, a lot of people even criticize Perfect Blue for sort of reifying mental illness or so forth. But then again, it's just the nature of the beast, right? There has to be a fantastical depiction of things like dissociative personality disorders. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, why watch Requiem for a Dream when you can live it? As I always say, yeah,
well,
Dutch unit.
that's true.
There you go. You truly can. Um, I haven't seen Paranoia Agent Owen Zaleski, but I have seen Paprika. But yeah,
Mm,
it's another good follow up for Perfect Blue and Cohen's other films. Well, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest that that's the case. But yeah, I mean, you can't deny they reify. I mean, that's also true.
hmm.
There's a lot of reifying presuppositions about things that they like, but it's always the excesses that get people to stop. I mean, it's something that you notice about shit moving in certain directions. Like, well, we accept these axiomatic presuppositions about liberation or liberalism or like gay race communism, but like once you go too far, either on like say like the trans stuff or kids or whatever, like then bam, like they'll cut the line there and decide like you get the Dave Rubins or the Barry Weisses of the world. Speaking of Barry Weiss, I'm actually going to that Free Press Mag thing next
Oh my
week
god.
on the 11th. Oh, so we may have to do the show early that day, Gio, because that's in Dallas. That's a bit of a drive for me. But yeah, I'm going to go with a friend of mine, and we're going to go watch that stupid immigration debate with Ann Coulter and some other people that have me blocked on Twitter. And I'm going to live tweet it and write my review, and that'll be up later.
Who's debating? It's mass debating.
It's Sorab Amari and Ann Coulter versus Cenk Uygur and Nick Gillespie of Reason Magazine over immigration.
Chunk Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, it's gonna be garbage. But
how many people are gonna wear leather jackets at that one?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Neolibs debate. Why go? Because
it's why good not? Content.
You do. Yeah, it's a colder lineup. It's definitely true. Because I want to get black lung and get hurt, and I'm ready to be hurt.
Hey, again. I live tweeted the Peterson Zizek debate years ago. So
did you go to that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently he's doing a lecture tour, and apparently one's in like Dallas or Fort Worth. And my friend was like, "Are you interested in going to this?" And I was like, "No, I'm going to go see some other Cole, but
Yeah.
I'm going to see some other garbage, but I
wonder if the Dallas Stars are in the playoffs this year. I think so. I have to check that, or they are the wild card team. But no, yeah, I can't wait. Maybe we should. Is that going to be live or no?
I don't know if it'll be live. I mean, I'm sure it'll be recorded, like the other, like the sexual revolution debate or whatever.
Yeah.
So. I mean, I'm gonna live tweet it, or I'm gonna hopefully try to live tweet it. I don't know how that's gonna be, but I'm going with a friend of mine, IRL, who used to do a lot of this internet stuff before taking a step back to go to law school. So I'm gonna have a lot of fun. He and I are just like gonna we picked seats so we can sit next to each other and just like laugh and smirk our ass off. Because for us, the immigration debate is like, okay, aggressive or passive aggressive deportation. You be the judge. But
remigration's the new word.
Yeah, remigration. Thank you, Martin Selner. So yeah, it's I don't know what Ann Coulter is up to these days. I don't follow her closely enough to care.
Posting Cole.
I just like I remember reading her work when I was in like high school and college and really liking what she had to say. So it would be cool to get a picture with Ann Coulter, but it's I also know that like the other three of them, I think all have me blocked on Twitter. So hey, that'll be fun. Like, hey, Sorab Amari, I reviewed your book and I'm not a fan, but
Prude's gonna take the mic like Charlie Kirk at the Graper Wars. He's gonna be like Patrick Casey questioning Charlie Kirk.
I really don't. Well, that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun if that were the case. But I don't think there'll be a Q&A thing.
What could you ask him? Not about because didn't they like talk about the USS Liberty or whatever, or the dancing Israelis at the Graper Wars? Like, what do they?
I wouldn't do that.
No,
I would just ask why your book sucks.
There you go. That could be it. Yeah.
But no, it's I figured why not? It'll be fun to go and review that and live tweet it. I am going to have an article that reviews and breaks down my thoughts on that Institute for Diplomacy and Peace thing I live tweeted out last week.
I saw
that'll hopefully be out later. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it was just like 4 realist scholars that are like, well, nothing ever changes. Like, Victoria Nuland's gone, but it's not like the NSC or the DOD are going to really change their position on this election. So I mean, it was a good breakdown. So that'll be out hopefully soon. And then I mean, good times were had overall.
Oh, one last thing about Perfect Blue. I was reading this like feminist critique of it, but there is something to be said about how in this, I think what's her name, Napier, was citing like Alfred Hitchcock or other films where the sort of like female eroticism of a celebrity leads to a lot of like madness and hysteria. And you could even see this theme, for example, in Metropolis with the figure of Maria, right? And how she's seducing these aristocrats in this, you know, futuristic city, and they're going mad. And then in Hitchcock, of course, you have the madness of the serial killer with the female in Psycho. And so, but there is something to it, though. There is something very primal and archetypal about this relationship between male obsession and madness and female eroticism. There's like, it's literally in the Bible, by the way. It's literally there.
Yeah.
And Salome, you know, and so there's this theme over and over again. And I think that as much as a lot of modern productions, especially in the West, try to downplay this for various ideological reasons, there still is reality to it. Like, I don't know. But then again, it's like nowadays they've tried to thoroughly destroy this, right? Since at least, I would say Scott Pilgrim versus the World, right? Like, can you imagine like them trying to do this thing like, I don't know, like Zendaya provoking male madness due to her latent eroticism? I mean, it's not, you know what I mean?
No, I mean,
yeah.
Unfortunately, I think what it is that it's more of an empowerment. It's the inverse of that now. Like, she's got a movie where she's, basically in charge of these like two like skinny white guys that are just like lusting after her. So it's like,
sorry, I speak too soon. That's correct. Yeah.
I don't know what the film is called. I'm not gonna watch it.
Is it out yet or no?
I don't know, and I don't want to know. I haven't seen her in anything. I'd like to keep it that way. I only really know about her due to Twitter discourse. So
everything I know about Zendaya is against my will.
yeah, it's my way about most celebrity news. Most things about celebrities I know against my will and against my wishes, whether I wanted to know about it or not. I wasn't given a say. I wasn't given a choice. And
is Hollywood going to play up the polyamory thing? Like, do you ever watch Savages by what's his name, Oliver Stone?
No.
You know what's funny? The Amarnites are memeing Oliver Stone because like he can't use Zoom without his assistant's Zoom account. So her name is like it's some woman's name. That's funny. Anyways, Savages had a polyamorous relationship. It was like two guys spit roasting Blake Lively. Yeah.
Good to know. I didn't know that. So
but like one of them was like a hippie new ager, the other one's an Iraq war veteran. And so it's like that contrast,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good to know, I guess. Again, knowledge that I've now learned against my will. So it doesn't surprise me, I suppose. But yeah,
has anyone watched Savages? That was an alright film about the drug trade. Blake Lively. I think it was Blake Lively in Savages. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you. I'll let chat do that. How can I avoid this? That's a great question. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, like, this is the same thing too, right? That you have to consider with respects to just how easy people cultivate their perception of reality from it. I mean, this is why cultivation theory is as well documented as it is. That people's perceptions of what goes on television, on media, is a reflection of the real world. Like, this is why it's so easy for people to like overestimate how many gay people there are in the world. Like, America isn't like 50% gay, even if it's socially acceptable to be.
Yeah.
Savages was decent minus the cucks. There you go.
There you go.
Others, that was a horrible movie. Well, I can avoid it. I will avoid. I'm a recipient of knowledge against my will. But yeah, I mean, everything is now the inverse of what a feminist critique would be these days, to where now it is just the female eroticism that will be driving people to madness, but in the madness in a way that like male eroticism is meant to drive women crazy. So like, again, male is female, female is male, and as Cole Porter would say, anything goes. And it's the unfortunate consequence of how things have just gone completely off the rails to destructive and outright just genocidal means. Just like, no, we actually want you to be this way and we want you gone. So enjoy this slop while you're here.
No, Hollywood's gonna make it so you can only have a heterosexual couple if you have like a towering muscle mommy and like a weak little soy. That's.
I feel like that's already the case now.
Well, hell, they have two white guys lusting after Zendaya. I mean, there you go. It's like,
yeah, like come on. Let's not kid ourselves. They kind of already do this. And then plus with the Academy's new rules for, what makes you eligible for an Oscar these days. Like
really?
Again, yeah, they changed it to where it's more about diversity and about representation. So it's just like, okay,
so it's not about the quality of a film. It's really just about the bullshit of, yeah.
Well, and I mean, really the big shelling point for this was, I think, the Oscars in 2017 when there was the big flub about Best Picture was supposed to go to La La Land, and then oh no, it was about Moonlight. So like a film that was like a love letter to old Hollywood, to like the silver screen, to Debbie Reynolds and musicals and romance and dramas. No, we're gonna have a gay black drug addict movie win Best Picture. And sorry,
Moonlight was a generally terrible film.
I didn't watch it. I'm just going to assume that, of course, it was. But it's like, and that was the point I try to make about when talking about that movie is that even though La La Land misses the mark terribly about trying to write a love letter to Hollywood and to do an old-fashioned golden era of Hollywood musical, it was the last attempt to reify old Hollywood. A last attempt to reify the silver screen age for a modern tale with genuinely good-looking, mainly all-white cast. And no, it's the big upset. It's actually the gay black drug addict movie that's gonna do it. And it's like no one watches this. Like I mean, Oscar bait, right? Like I don't remember that being a widely financially successful film, but obviously, So Oscar bait wins in that respect, and that's the point I try to make when I talk about La La Land. It's like it's not a great movie. It is, but it isn't, and it fails to miss the mark. It's very close to being perfect, but it fails, and so I mean, it becomes this perfect 2016 shelling point where you can't go back to that world.
No,
and even if Hollywood wanted to go back to that world, the only person who really could do it right is Quentin Tarantino. And as messed up as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is in some respects, he's like the last director who can kind of say, actually, no, this Age of Hollywood was great, and here's my love letter fantasy of alternative history where the hippies get what they deserve and American Hollywood lives on for a few more decades because Sharon Tate wasn't murdered. So, I mean, that'd be another fun film to review, actually. So yeah, pay up, people. I'll do it for $75. And
you bastard, you're fucking undercutting my prices. Oh my god!
I don't know, Gio. I watched you make like over $500 the other week. So, but anyways,
see, because then you're gonna give everyone's gonna make you go through humiliating movie reviews.
I doubt that sincerely. I doubt it sincerely. Like I know how the
proves more quickly to refuse things than me. So
I also know how the dynamics of shit works. So I'm not too worried. I already know how this works.
$75.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. But anyways,
no. Yeah, I think you'd probably raise your price to like $300 to review a humiliating film.
I think the audience knows that you're the more entertaining person to go to for humiliation, whereas me being the straight man who has to suffer is already the built-in dynamic to the show.
True.
I think the audience knows how I think everyone knows how this Laurel and Hardy dynamic works out. Plus, there's a Laurel and Hardy film literally called Night Owls, and once I learned that, it makes so much sense about the actual Night Owls Twitter space, because it is Laurel and Hardy hosting the world's weirdest racist radio show. So yeah, but no, I mean, I liked Perfect Blue. I mean, I would happily review Paprika because that's also just a very trippy film. I haven't seen the Paranoia Agent one, but I've heard good things about it because it talks about like tulpas and consciousness and hysteria. It's also kind of pokes fun at Hello Kitty and other like meme mascots, but. Again, like it was a fun film to review, or at least to watch, and fun in the sense that like like Lane or some of the Ryan Gosling films that we reviewed, some of the social commentary in there has only gotten better. I do want to have a review out. I have like a half-written script that I need to eventually get back to, because as I take on this new job, I mean, I'll probably have to transition to more video essays rather than live streams, which is kind of what I wanted. My resolution for this year was to write more. I would like to finish my essay slash script for reviewing Her
Oh yeah,
2013 with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson, because like
I've yet to
I think
watch her. I feel
that
scared to watch it.
that film has only aged to a terrifying degree. And I think that would be one of those fun films to review, and I will, because I'm going to finish that script and write it out. But yeah, it's one of those films like these that have their social commentary has only gotten more intense, schizophrenic, and on target with time. Which I know that opens up discussions about predictive programming and all that, but that's a whole other talk for another day. But it is one of those films where it's just like, the distance, emotional distance, and the disembodied voice that's in our heads, and that's a computer that's not human. And what does it mean to have love in a day and age where people have jobs that are fake? I mean, what in that movie, Her, his
Bullshit
whole job.
jobs.
Well, his job is literally a fake job. I mean, he writes fake love letters based off details and information that other people give him. He's a human large language learning model to write letters and greeting cards for people, and he's apparently really good at it. And he does it in a style to make it look all that human hand touched. And it's like, oh, honey, you shouldn't have. And it's like, that's right, I paid some other poor bastard to go do it for me. I
That's
mean, the
so
only
spiritually humiliating and degrading. That's terrible.
it's again, yeah, that review will one day drop. I just need to finish writing the damn essay, because that is one of those films that because it came out in 2013, and I've been told it's sort of like the answer to some breakup that he had in some other film that was made. But that part doesn't matter too much to me. For me, it was like in 2013, oh, what an interesting science fiction story about romance and computers. And then in 2024, I'm like, this is Bugman hell. This is the dystopia I wish to avoid, that is slowly becoming real as the bots tell me that their pussy is in their bio, and that there are AI chatbot GFs, and that people use GPT to bring back dead girlfriends. And it's like, yep, I live in man-made horrors that unfortunately are within my realm of comprehension, and that makes it worse. In the same way that Perfect Blue is something that I think is very realistic, that people can be driven to disassociative states, and that fandom and the early internet, all that early internet panic at the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, some of it was used for rom-coms, like when we reviewed You've Got Mail, which is a comfort movie for me. I can put that on in the background and do whatever. But at the same time, like everyone was like both terrified of what the internet could do because it was so new, and at the
There's that
same
liminal
time,
period of it, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the dial-up period of the late 90s, and everything that came with it, there was so much panic about it, and it was culturally expressed in both film and television, and the whole stranger danger concept. And now and it's something that even like John Perry Barlow wrote about with like Deadheads and the internet in the late 90s, is that basically, if you couldn't be a groupie, if you couldn't tour all around, you now had a centralized website where every Deadhead could go to and live extraterritorially online while still engaging in the fandom. And, for all I mean, between the Electronic, Frontier Foundation, everything else that he was a part of, and, the CIA or whatever, that essay still holds up really well, because that's still true. Like, this is the Bird app, the Heaven site, the Hell site. Everything about this place has now become a grazing ground of the watering hole, where everyone can sort of conglomerate within their own respective subgroups and ecosystems, where now everyone's part of this thing at all times, and we can always keep track of what's going on. And some people, that either drives them mad, and they get filtered and they quit, or they come back eventually later after they learn how to cope with it. Or again, like, they are driven to the extreme point where if someone says something that you don't like once, that guy is like enemy number one for the rest of your life on twitter.com. and it's just back and forth all over the place, and it's an crazy thing to consider with respects to the fact, I'm engaging in a society within a society that is both separate but not separate from the world that I exist in. And it too can make it easy. And again, this goes back to all the stuff I say on the show all the time. Like, she loses her perception of time in the real world, and then we lose our perception of time online because, it's been 10 years since, something happened, or it's been like This Week in Stupid was like in 2017, so it's
Apparently
crazy to
he's making
consider.
videos on the actual Sargon channel.
Yes,
again.
he has been, which has been interesting to say the least. He did a whole video on quote unquote Gamergate 2, and he's just like, listen, you guys are gonna lose, and here's why, because I lived through the first one.
Well, really, what did Gamergate really accomplish? I mean,
Really?
it accomplished a lot, but I think that let's not talk about Gamergate. We're gonna save that one for a future episode. Hopefully with Mr. Benjamin.
It would be nice to interview him.
Yeah. But it is funny. It is funny though, not funny, but it's tragic in a way that there's always this like typical like Cole discourse around popular media, like with the Hollywood thing, about like just because you can't make movies about racism and sexism without diversity doesn't mean you can't make good films. When in actuality, it's proven that no, you can't make good films with like diversity everywhere without any form of like racism or phobia. It's just impossible. You know what I mean? But then again, there's the argument to be said that I think I was listening to the review of that Poor Things film, which is a generally terrible film, by the way.
Poor Things?
Yeah, with Emma Stone, where she's like got the brain of an infant, but she becomes like this liberated like girl boss, works in a brothel in the Edwardian era. It's like this recent film.
Nope, haven't seen it. Haven't heard of it either.
It's like Oscar bait. It's like Oscar bait, right?
Okay, so
I was listening to the Red Scare review of it, and they did bring up a good point about.
Who would have guessed?
Who would have guessed? They did bring up a good point about like that the right wing thinks that if you were to like take off all limitations, that you would have like a renaissance of culture.
Yeah.
But I think within reason that's true. Certainly you should be able to tell stories in Hollywood that is, against that sort of like forced diversity norm of the Oscars now. But at the same time, limitation does sort of breed like covert or fugitive meaning when it comes to storytelling. For example, Twitter is like the perfect example of this, where Elon like taking off the reins does like allow the ability to like post Cole in engagement bait and so forth. So in a way, limitations does breed creative freedom, but within limits. Because if you can't tell any story, then what's the point? Like, it's just the same old Hollywood slop. Then it's like, but I do understand that line of thinking that limitations actually does breed innovation, or the ability for directors to tell the truth without actually coming out and saying it, or like giving red meat to libtards, but you have to sort of like suffer through that red meat to then get to the meaning of it, because you have to like basically, it's a typical like Straussian persecution complex type of thing. Like you have to like pretend that you're being a libtard, but in actuality, it's a base message, but it's not. I mean, although I would say that Poor Things is just a genuinely trashy film, but it's like, it is what it is,
Many such cases.
Many such cases. But there are things that do ostensibly appear libtarded, but they do that to basically confuse and bamboozle libtards, when in actuality they're deeply subversive and based films, or works of literature, or comics, or whatever. But it's just they're far and few between. Yeah. Anything else news in the absence of our presence last week? What else happened?
The Baltimore Bridge, the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Oh God,
that happened.
Nobody remembers that anymore.
Well, I mean, the cleanup stuff's going to take years and decades to rebuild. Yeah. I mean, that's that happened. hey, nothing happened. How much money to not watch the news? That would be a fun one, right? Like
Hmm.
we could skip a whole section of the show. We don't have to cover the news anymore. That'd be great. Um,
We gotta cover the news though. We get our jollies out when we cover the news every week.
mm,
Well, maybe me, but that's. Uh,
yeah, but on top
that
of
was
that,
crazy with the bridge. People thought that there was like some attack or whatever. Some like Alex Jones, like there's sonic weapons. It's like no, it's actually just Indians. There's not. It's no sonic weapons.
it was also engine failure, like an
And engine
electrical
failure.
failure,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's got some interesting. What's the word I'm looking for? He's got some what I'm trying to think of the channel. The guy who runs what's going on with shipping, he was sharing some guys videos about like the ship itself and how the things broke down and how the things played out the way that they did. It was a very good breakdown. He was also talking about like who's actually going to pay for it, what maritime insurance is going to kick in, where's the city, where's the feds, everything. It was a very it's sometimes really nice to break down what's actually happening. Yeah, Sal Mercoliano, like he's great. I quite enjoy it. What's going on with shipping? It's been some very good stuff to break down. He's been very critical of the United States Navy. The incompetent excuse is becoming more and more prevalent. Well, I mean, there's a lot more incompetence these days. On top of the fact that there is also, I think it's why I also made the tweet about Brazil, the movie, because like sometimes there are so much stuff going on in the backdrop that we're all kind of conspiracy minded that sometimes shit just happens. But yeah, I mean, Sal is great, and that book about Neptune's power, about like sea power and stuff, I actually really want to read. So maybe I'll review that as well in the near future, because like I said, I'm gonna have to return to essays and video essays more, especially as I take a IRL in office job rather than just being online.
Maybe the future will be AI will run a lot of international water shipping and.
Well, isn't that like the big hope though for a lot of people with the acceleration take is that like hopefully AI will make things easier with respects to incompetence, but like we have to be we have to retard AI in order to meet like progressive priors. Record deepness. I've done an Alfred Thayer Mahan stream like almost 2 years ago with Todd Lewis of Praise of Folly, so that would be in the back catalog if you want to look up sea power and discussions like that. You know what else is worse than a ship accident? No one cares, and it happened, and then we all moved on 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with Palestine.
Same with Aaron
in
Bushnell.
Ohio.
Same with East Palestine in Ohio. Same with the Aaron Bushnell news. So I mean that would be something to consider.
Yeah, Trump's mugshot.
Yeah, I mean like how fast things move. Sometimes the pipe is just a coincidence. Sometimes accidents do happen. It will be terrible. I mean, like America's infrastructure, and then they were like, "Oh, it's DEI neighbors and things like that." And it's like, yeah, well, when you're going out there in like a leather jacket and you're in like a freshman like Leatherman jacket, saying like, "That's how we're going to rebuild the city," it's just like, I think those claims are true.
Yeah, like that American realist painting of like the engineer with his sleeve rolled up and like the wheat field behind him, and you know that one?
No.
Oh fuck, who was it by?
Oh,
It
do
was
you,
by
do you mean the Secret Service agent thing?
No. It
That
was like an
you?
American realist painting. It was a social realist painter where it's like
Oh,
an engineer building America. He's like a
I
blonde guy.
I'd have to look it up. Yeah, I mean,
No, but it's funny, like infrastructure. Well, sometimes a pipe isn't a pipe. Sometimes you have like the Nord Stream pipeline, which I mean,
yeah, sometimes things do actually happen where they're attacked and all that jazz.
but it's funny how AI like trying to outcompete the incompetency crisis is like a weirdo dystopian reality right there. You know, it's sort of like no, but it's sort of like to go back to Hollywood for a moment, like secretly based directors trying to slip messages to libtards, whereas like you have the opposite, which is like libtards trying to slip in like social progressive programming to like boomer cons with like Hick Liberty, like Letterkenny, or what's it called? Nobody cares about that show anymore. What's it called?
What
Kevin
show?
Costner.
Oh, Yellowstone.
Yellow soy, yeah, Yellowstone, yellow soy. Like it's like that. It's really crazy. Like yeah, it's a guy. Yeah, exactly. No, Jude. It's a guy with the sleeves rolled up, holding blueprints. Yeah, it's like Building America type of thing. But
I think
anyways,
maybe I have seen it. Maybe I have seen that painting.
Yeah, it's a very famous social realist painting. The Kansas City Spirit. I think that's what it's called.
Let's go look that
thank you, Brett Taylor. No, but that's what I mean. Like in a way, I think it's like what James Kirkpatrick said. I know it's a tweet we keep coming back to. Like about like the price you pay to escape urban decay. Oh, was it by Norman Rockwell? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it is a Norman Rockwell painting.
Fuck! Oh, I fucking hate Norman Rockwell. Anyways, that's why you're going to buy my book in September, so you can read what I actually just edited with Matthew, the Norman Rockwell and Banksy chapter.
There you go. There's your Norman Rockwell painting.
I got to say, that's a non-subversive Norman Rockwell painting. I got to say. That is a good one.
A New Deal Democrat.
Yeah, exactly. It's about a New Deal. See, if this is what Nightmare Vision said once on Night Owls. If the Democrat Party were to have stayed like that, America would be way better. And you'd have a genuine right wing, you have a genuine left wing, and it would have been better for everybody. But then gay race communism had to be the blueprint. So cuckold, hyper bloodthirsty capitalism with the Republicans versus gay race communism with the Democrats. That's unfortunately the time period that we find ourselves in. There could have been a hauntological time period, a timeline where all of that could have been different. That could have been the Democrat Party. Instead, what we have now, we have gay race communism. So
well, I mean, there's an argument to make where it's like a lot of what gets called the DR these days is just nothing more than early turn of the 20th century progressivism.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I'm not really surprised in that respect.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. It's true. But that's the thing. Like, it's we live in a very crazy time. It could have been different.
We do. You know, things have. The woke have gone bananas, as Drumley Cupra would say, and he's been having a good time with those AI voice song stuff.
The best is the one Democrats the Real Racist with like the chubby blonde girl.
He did like 3 or 4 of them. They're all pretty damn funny in that respect.
Music, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as Scove Fanon would like to remark, remember the commies did win. And you have to live with the consequences of that, unfortunately. And this is where we're at.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that's the thing. I think it is crazy how a lot of things are designed to stave off the consequences of how insane the world that we live in is. Like that. Like, can AI outpace the incompetency crisis? Can we create films and media and stories in the collective news sphere that has to like trick the censors, but even tricking the censors is also a form of consenting to the narrative. It's like this really weird, like just the other day I saw, what is it? Like, the politics of moral panic are so insidious.
Yeah.
Like, it was some stupid garbage Cole viral tweet about like Filthy Frank, how you can't have like those guys like Filthy Frank nowadays. But the implicit assumption is that it's a good thing that you can't have that type of like what early Zoomers were exposed to with like Filthy Frank. It's like the implicit assumption of both like let people enjoy things, but also like you can't have that nowadays and it's a good thing. Like, there's always that hidden assumption that culture is on this linear bent. And when people say that, oh, you can't have that nowadays, like that's a good thing that you can't have certain forms of media nowadays. It's just like it's inherently destructive. but it's just like it's insanity how a lot of like I forget who said this. I think it was someone else on Twitter. It may have been Cowboy, who's a NetL regular. He said like every piece of media that a lot of Zoomers are exposed to, they also have to critique. And it's like we're to become this thing that you have to critique every single thing that you consume, right? And a lot of social theorists, like even Zizek, were talking about this years ago. But there is something to where you can't, like, when people say just let people enjoy things, that's not the case anymore. You can't really enjoy anything unless you're also simultaneously critiquing it. It's like when Zoomers rediscover like media that millennials were involved. It's like that Dan Schneider documentary where it's like people were like rediscovering fucking
rediscovering media literacy.
Yeah. It's like millennials were watching that. Oh my God. It's like, it's so F-slurish.
You have been sentenced to listen to a shit-lib white male video essay for 45 minutes. No!
Exactly.
Just,
I have to listen for a fucking hour-long Quentin Reviews video about him talking about how terrible it was that Drake and Josh had a fucking cum shot joke. Like, that's what culture's reduced to. It's not even the Zoomers themselves. It's the fucking soy-lennial pieces of shit like Quentin Reviews talking about how terrible and evil it was that millennials were exposed to racism and sexism. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah, our friend Patrick goes, everyone is always in crit mode. That's true. I mean, even we are. I mean, we're in default criticism mode in that respect. Is any media that we look at, we're going to look at it in a critical lens, because I think once you accept sort of the presupposition that like things have fallen, decayed, bad, subversive, like you're in instantaneously like right-wing critique mode. And like at the end of April, I'm doing something with TR Hudson and Capitalissimo where we're just going to talk about the Venture Brothers, which I get. Like, you could argue that that's like a subversive show, and maybe to some extent it probably very much is. But like, I also enjoyed that piece of Adult Swim media. I quite liked it. I want to talk about something I enjoy for once. It's another reason why I do the fishing videos. I enjoy fishing. I enjoy the outdoors. I don't think it's insane that people have to be, if you're in crit mode or like you're in like raw, like I hate everything mode, I think you will equally drive yourself insane. And I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan, and I don't want to do it. I want to do things that I like. I want to talk about things that I like, or I want to do things that I like. Whether that's reviewing books and media or, doing game streams on Friday night. Like, sorry, I like things. And I think that it's a really bad, to even go back to the very beginning of what we were talking about today. I really don't want to be the person that goes out of his way to say, oh, I think that it's a terrible fact that we're always constantly against things. And I think it's sometimes good to let people know that you're human and enjoy stuff like that. You're absolutely right. It's hard to apply postmodernism to things that you like. Well, I don't know. Perhaps you can. It's true. You can.
I do that every day on my show.
Gio does it all the time.
I want to have a cup of dirt and play with Legos. Can we not ask for that again, Lightning? Yeah.
Well, that is true. I did post the cup of dirt thing on Twitter, which I was quite happy with.
I used to have a dirt cake with the gummy worms when I was a kid.
Yeah, the cup of dirt.
Yeah.
You got to enjoy it. I said, have a cup of dirt. It's on the house.
One last thing. Speaking of soy-lennials, and people like, okay, these fucking bread tubers, and especially like the women bread tubers, but also like Clinton, blah. Like Thought Slime and Quentin Reviews. Imagine that, Clinton Reviews, where like Hillary Clinton comes out and reviews children's books or whatever.
No, didn't she do she has a podcast, or she did a podcast tour, and like I think fucking ContraPoints was on it at one point in time. Yeah. And like, could you imagine seeing that come out, and then you're oh god, what's his name? The socialist guy, the one who wrote RedTube Serves Imperialism.
Caleb Maupin.
Yeah, imagine being Caleb Maupin when that thing drops. Like, I was right. He's getting like dragged off of his own like socialist
being
policy.
Caleb Maupin, hounded by Antifa for years to only be proven right. Like, it's Caleb Maupin's like a ridiculous guy. I don't endorse. I have no connection. There's one fucking idiot that tried to say because I used to be friends with Logo that I'm connected to Caleb Maupin. It's like, fuck off. I'm not connected. I've never talked to Caleb Maupin in my life. I think he's a clown, but he's 100% correct in this issue. BreadTube is CIA. BreadTube is a CIA religion. By the way, me and Logo are not friends anymore, unfortunately. Maybe fortunately, who knows? But I know that Logo doesn't like me anymore. But it is what it is. Anyways, my point was that it's so like I can't stand this.
That's gotta be not real.
What?
Sorry, someone in chat says Quentin Reviews made a 38-hour video about Beverly Hillbillies Changed TV or something.
That can't be real.
No, I looked it up. No, it is real. 323,000 views 23 hours ago. How Beverly Hillbillies Changed TV Forever. I can't imagine that's this
Did
has
he
to
go
be
through
like
each episode? Is that
that
why?
has to be an elaborate shit post. Yeah, this video was this video began to upload. Okay, so it's an upload. It's an April Fool's joke. I'm not too worried. But like, whoo, I wouldn't be surprised. But I mean, hey, I'm a patrician TV fan, so it's not like I don't care about long ass reviews of things I'm never going to watch and or do.
Or play.
Well, that's also true. Although most of the things that they've reviewed, I have played. So
yeah. But anyways, finally, making my point. So, God, it took 50 minutes.
Many such cases.
What I really hate are people like Jenny Nichols or Strange Aeon or Quentin Reviews or Thoughts, like all those guys, or even on Twitter, where you'll have like aging millennials. They sell their authenticity to younger, hyper sensitive, hyper deranged, progressive Zoomers, like leftoid Zoomers that don't know anything about life, that have been totally in isolation. What they do is they sell their authenticity by telling them about soy-millennial media as if it's like a veteran telling war stories about Vietnam or the Iraq War or World War II.
There was one like that was, and I think he's got like a bird PFP or whatever, but it was like reviewing. It was like a long Frasier retrospective, which of course it's
Big Joel, I think it's the guy that looks like a peed.
I don't know. I didn't see a face in like the 30 minutes of like I just like casually glanced at, never heard of the guy, and then like immediately gave this like long like breakdown about like class and race, and I was like, yep. Like, never watch this channel again. Never bothered. It's, some people sometimes do actually good ones. Like, there's actually a really good review of like Cheers throughout the seasons. Which was actually, I think it was about like how did Frasier become like the spinoff show, and it was like breaking down like Kelsey Grammer's roles throughout like all of Cheers. And like it's like a 3.5 hour video, and like it kind of broke down everything. I was like, wow, that's actually pretty good. But now it's just sad to see everyone's like deconstructing these things as if they were these like great evils, like you said, like they're war veterans. And it's like, no, like society just was radically transformed culturally around 2008, and you're the unhappy sycophant that has accepted the new religion, but you remember the like you remember when the walls of Constantinople were still working and blocked the gunshots, and like you kind of miss the old religion, but because you're a what they call reverts, like now that you've accepted Seljuk Turk rule, it's that's the way that it's going to be.
It's a way of like laundering their authenticity to progressive Zoomers that they're like, oh, back when I was, when I was a kid, I lived through the fucking iCarly cum shot joke, or I lived through the racism of Alone in the Dark or whatever, or I lived through. It's like, what the fuck did you live through? You fucking laughed at those jokes. You laughed at Filthy Frank videos. Give me a fucking break. And the older ones were dropping hard R's on something awful back in the day. Don't give me this fucking bullshit that, oh, I lived through the early internet, and don't you know things were a lot bad? Thank God that you young whippersnappers are really cleaning things up.
Thank God you have your slop. We didn't have that.
Yeah. Yeah, gay
Yeah.
race communism. We didn't have that back in the day. Like, fuck.
Well, I mean, we certainly did,
We
but it
did, but
was.
it wasn't like. It's just like
I'd
it's
argue it was better.
millennial libtards who are trying to be with it and cool. And it's like, I'm so sorry that I used to watch Nickelodeon. I'm so sorry that I used to go on Something Awful and drop hard R's. Now I have to be an Arnie leftist F slur. It's like, fuck off, man. It's like, I really hate that. I hated when boomers tried to do that. Like boomer liberals where they try to be hip and cool. And like, if I had a trans grandson, I would be totally accepting of that. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure if boomer had a trans grandson, that you'd totally be fine with that. I'm sure. It's just I hate when people they try to do this like cult of authenticity by trying to dictate to younger people what they should and should do, or they try to sell to younger people this like form of faux progressive authenticity. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Like you were that one kid that saw that fucking Ariana Grande doing this trying to milk a what was it, a potato? You were that one kid that said, "Don't you know that this was wrong? Don't you know that this was?" Yeah, I'm sure you were. I'm sure. If I was in Nazi Germany, I wouldn't have gone along with it. Fuck off. It's progressive mythology. It's soillennial progressive mythology that you were that one kid that said that those jokes in Superbad were off color and that shouldn't have been made. It's like, yeah, fuck off, man. It's like you went through the war of 2000s millennial media, and it was terrible. Like, fuck off. I hate these people, Prude. I hate these people. I hate them because they're inauthentic. Just admit it. I'm getting upset. I'm sorry. But it's just people like Quentin Reviews. Maybe because I can see myself. Maybe because I'm like kind of like a fat guy with a beard. I can like see myself in Quentin Review. If only I had a few wrong turns, I could have been an Arnie leftist. You know what I mean? I don't know, man.
Well, I think I said this in a reply to a James Kirkpatrick tweet, with just basically that, like, if I wanted the money, I'd be a leftist. Like
Yeah,
if I really wanted the cash
I would be
and
like Quentin Reviews.
and the clicks, I'd be doing thought slime video essays, leftism.
Yeah.
And I don't ever see there, but for the grace of God, I look at Dave talking about bread tubers and shit, and I'm like, I could be those people, if not by the grace of God, that I have principles and beliefs and things that don't make me want to, basically imitate and wear other people's trans identity as a skin suit. But
Yeah.
again,
That
thank
you
God,
used to
I'm
date. It's really creepy.
not. Yeah.
Yeah. Do people know what we're talking about? Probably.
I think they do.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I think we talked about this a while ago too, where it was speaking of Tree Surgeon putting that chat up there, where it was like
Brett Taylor, I swear to God, Brett, if you fucking pay me $100 to do, I'm gonna to do Napoleon Dynamite. Please don't. If you pay me $100 to review Napoleon Dynamite, I'm gonna have to like relive my trauma of elementary school all over again. It's not happening, Brent. It's not happening.
They'll do it. They'll do it to you next week, as they will.
Yeah,
since you
as they will.
As they told it, as you said that you would. So it'll be next week. That's how it's going to be ever since you made your statement. But I mean, it's I think that's sort of the thing though about all of that is that you're going to have to come to the conclusion that people will chase the grift. They want to chase what's currently there. I mean, like the whole like philosophy tube pruning out deal. I mean, like what is the point for it other than to say like, one, I want to be the woman that I have, that weird like fetishistic idealization of the other, but also that you've got the desire to stay relevant, because again, like I'm surprised. I mean, maybe Vaush is on his way out. Who knows? Or like Destiny people doing what he's doing.
Oh, Vaush is definitely on his way out. Like that's not even a question. That's
But again, right? Like what comes to the conclusion is that like, well, where's the place for the straight white male bread tuber? Well, you gotta prune out, or some other crazy deal, right? And that's sort of just the way that it's been. To let's force a lolcow moment. Let's not have a lolcow moment. But yeah.
Well, I don't know, like, yeah, I noticed you were going into a fugue state while I was ranting there. But no, I really resent when people try to play as if they're a voice of authority to younger generation when they haven't earned it, or their experiences are feeding onto a bullshit narrative about their own past. That's my point. To say that you were the only kid that found that iCarly joke uncomfortable is nonsense. And in the same way that a lot of breadtubers have to launder their own identity as a form of authenticity, which, I mean, to be brutally honest, a lot of people on the right do that as well. And it's bullshit. I'm sure a lot of Anons are not exactly Bronze Age step warriors, although I have seen a lot of Anons who
I've seen a lot of well put together, financially successful Anons.
Financially and successful, have a good body, and have a family. You know, I have seen that. But in that sense, I do think that playing a character, if you're doing it as an artistic thing, as sort of like a performance art, then that's fine. Like that what's her fucking name? The not Balenciaga, Bellincamo.
Oh, the Bella.
Angela,
something like that. Angela Bellacamino. Angela Bellacamino.
Yeah, Bellacamino. Like, to me, I think she's a performance artist. That's what she's doing. It's a weird form of performance art.
I mean, what is performance art for a lot of, like? The question would be is what is performance art for these people other than rituals which reify their identity and their belief?
Right.
Because I mean, performance art is ritual, just in the abstract for people to watch, and that you become complacent. And I mean, like, you see this too with a lot of like performance art in general. Is that like you are now part of a very strange, self-imposed liturgia, this public religious work for people to participate in, and that's where you're going to have to deal with.
No, exactly, and sometimes when the work becomes a shoot, to quote the almighty Hulk Hogan, a lot of marks don't know when a shoot is a work and a work is a shoot, brother. Sometimes when a work becomes a shoot, you slip into lolcow territory. And Vaush is a good example of that. He's a lolcow now. It's over for Vaush. It's over for Keffels. Maybe one day, although he came very close, but he has a lot of fans for some stupid reason. But maybe one day, lolcowdom will visit Quentin Reviews once again. It visited Movie Blob with the whole thing with again Proto BreadTube. What's her face? Nostalgia chick. What's her fucking stupid name?
Ellis is the last name. Lindsay Ellis.
Lindsay Ellis. It'll happen to you. And someday that hand of fate will reach to ContraPoints, and it'll happen to ContraPoints like it happened to Vaush, like it happened to Movie Bob, like it happened to every single lolcow before. Someday, it'll happen to you. The hand of fate, the hand of lolcowdom. And you know who will be right? Like exactly like Vaush, exactly like ContraPoints. One day, or with Keffels, one day, one man, Joshua Connor Moon, will stand over your E-Celeb grave and will dance upon it. Like he's dancing upon Keffels as he metaphysical grave. That's the fate of these people if you're not authentic. So there you go. In the end, Null won. In the end, Kiwi Farms won. That's the truth.
Well, I mean, Kiwi Farm still exists, and as it survived a multi-step attack against it. But I mean, how many of these people are still on mainstream, whereas Kiwi Farms is, where it is?
Well, true.
I think that sometimes this isn't to counter signal your point. I just think that sometimes it's important to be quick to say not so. It's important to sometimes say not so fast, because these people are still around. And I mean, it was also like the whole discussion over like Sweet Baby Inc. and a lot of the former Gamergate people from 10 years ago founded companies with money that, were part of the original series of people that shouldn't have been a part of it. And it's just that, there's a lot of it goes back to the infrastructure thing. Like, oh yeah, people can say that DEI is garbage or whatever, but we also know that like the entire legal infrastructure for that still exists. The people that
Yeah,
are,
true.
that have bankrolled or supported Keffels, like, and all these followers and things, they're still around and they still have radical ape shit crazy beliefs.
Oh, Kefla still secured the bag. Yeah, she stole from his fans, and yeah, YouTube, her fans, YouTube, her fan. It's fans. Yeah, Keffel still made the bag, right? But in terms of longevity, these people are no more. I mean, what can Keffels and Dausch really do? But I understand your point, Prue. That is true because the legal apparatuses
Like
that destroy
the legal
Kiwi farms.
infrastructure still exists, the
Yeah.
cultural infrastructure still exists. Like it is like, again, back to the whole joke from like Seinfeld. Not that there's anything wrong with that, despite obviously that there very much is. Not that there's anything wrong with what these people have done, because again, it's about it's about where's the social agreeableness? Where is the state-sponsored social agreeableness that says, well, like certain actions are incentivized, supported by everything like that. Whereas today, everything that Josh did and everything that we see as like great victories, we also know that they come at an enormous cost to go against the grain of it. And like, as long as the grain flows in that particular direction, it's going to be like this all the time. And we have to say, well, wait a second, not so fast. Sure, we're like one rock that can hold against the current, but how much effort and money and blood and sweat and tears went into this? And it does illustrate it back to our discussion about the whole shoe tweets. Like, notice how easy it is for people to just go with the flow, and how easy it is for people to go with the grain. Like, again, you have an entire, it's not like, as much as we talk about like patronage, it's not just a patronage network. There is also the psychological desire to be seen in the agreeable, to be seen as part of the majority, the whole like Gustav Bond, like the wisdom of crowds type deal, or the madness of crowds, where no, like, it is totally fine to witness hundreds of thousands of people, regularly donate, chip in to mentally ill men saying like, no, this is the way that things are going to be now because they're evil or they're fascists or whatever. That's the grain. That's what's okay. That's what's sponsored. That's what's encouraged.
Church is actually worse than fascist in some of these people's eyes. Yeah.
And I mean, it's enjoy prison podcast, child. I mean, that comes to a big big part of how it just comes into it, right? Is that it's unless you really want to know the autistic lore of every lolcow. Sometimes people will link stuff to me, and I'm like, I'm not so sure how I feel.
Yeah, some lolcows I think are just too pathetic to really care about. They're just like, it's like, it's not that exciting. It's just very sad. Like that one methed out guy that's like inbred. Who cares? No, but my point was just that, like, yeah, that's a good point, Brew. Like, you got to realize, like, Null, like Joshua Connor Moon Null was like hounded by governments, like had to go into exile. Like, he suffered a lot just to like run the Kiwi farms. Yeah, Cyrax, exactly. Yeah, Dan Larson. It's like, who cares? Yeah, Cog. Who cares about these people, man? Like, it's very sad. It's not that who cares, just it's very sad. And it's like, I don't want to watch that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I hope that
I
these
also
people
don't want
find
to
help
know
one
these
day.
things either. I don't want to be privy to the most intimate knowledge that people put on the internet, because people do. And I mean, I remember there being a time with the whole like Encyclopedia Dramatica. Like, once you had an article, like, I know, old head stuff right there, right? But like, once you had an article about that stuff, and once you said certain things, I mean,
it's over.
It's forever. It really is forever.
Yeah.
And again, I think that so many people either have to ignore it or deliberately disassociate and encourage themselves a permanent state of lack of self-awareness and shamelessness. That's just the way that it's going to go. And I mean, that's really just how it's going to be, right? It's just that people are going to be encouraged, incentivized financially, publicly, with view counts and tweets and likes and rethings, these tiny little dopamine hits, to just basically like, well, I'll wave the magic wand and I will just turn off that part of my brain that has shame or self-consciousness or whatever, or they'll let that self-consciousness just like manifest.
No, some people deserve it. Some people, they've given themselves over to reprobate mind because, like you said, they turn,
Yeah,
like,
no, I do agree with you there.
Not to name names, but
I mean, you don't even need to name names at all. I mean, it's just
I can think of a few,
clearly. But but like I see that
Mm.
you've got some you got a list to go.
Well,
But
like, okay, King Cobra, that's a sad case because he could have been, the alcohol and the drugs, and King Cobra is a sad case. Um, there's very few people who have come back from the brink of lolcaldom. Very few. There has been a few. I mean, Sargon, arguably Sargon is a good example. He came back from a pretty steep cliff. Jesus, like it's
yeah.
yeah. But no, but like you said, like there's some people that have the ability to turn off shame and turn off self-awareness and turn
Well,
off
it does require you to be like I would argue
yeah.
just like a successful online personality is to be shameless or to get into the bit.
Yeah.
You have to adopt another mask to do how these are, right?
Mhm.
And that's it has like again like I don't think you can be this kind of online thing forever. I don't longevity again because like this whole concept of like
Oh,
e
I'll be here
personality.
forever. Don't worry about it. No, I'm kidding. You
Well,
never
never,
know.
never. Well, never say never, right?
Yeah,
But I mean,
true.
like you can. I mean, like Sargon has done. Like Carl's done what a lot to be where he's at, and people can not like him or say whatever. But I mean, like I don't know, nearly a decade of still being quasi relevant is, I think, an impressive achievement in and of itself, whether you like the guy or not. At the
Mhm.
same time, like I don't see myself being around here like 10 or 15 years from now. Like I don't know. I think that's a crazy thing to facilitate. Like, do you want to do this? Like, what else is going to happen in 10 to 15 years? Things will get worse on the IRL side. Are you? Will this whole model of personality be
Maybe a nuclear
around?
war will happen. Who knows?
Well, anyone could know. But I
There
mean,
have been
again,
people that have been on the internet for 15 years, like guys like Amazing Atheist or Andy Worski or like there's
yeah.
been people around forever. Yeah, yeah. It's just Mr. Medicare has
But I
been
mean,
around forever. Like
whether he likes that or not, considering his medical
yeah.
stuff, I don't know. But I mean, it's just something to consider. That I do think that you're going to see a big. I don't know. Maybe I think we're going to see something change in the model
Hmm.
because again, I know that if you keep at it, you can build around. And I mean, like, okay, but Amazing Atheist is a locale though. Well, I mean, that's
Oh
sort of
yeah,
the.
he's destroyed himself. Yeah,
But I
and I
mean,
couldn't
like,
be happier. But
at a certain point,
but,
I think he's aware of it. I mean,
yeah,
you don't dress up like a fucking Church of Satan fucking like Nosferatu get up
Anton
after the Dobbs.
LaVey. Yeah,
You don't dress up like Anton LaVey to go do a video about the Dobbs decision and abortion, right? Like I was like, I'm really upset. And it's like you look like a fucking like creepy magician that probably has a fucking like sex offender registry.
it's
And
over for him, man. When Patty left him, it was over.
sure, right,
Yeah.
but I mean, again, like that's sort of the long winding road of living down your beliefs and the snake trail of plenty of unimpressive people have staying power. That's very true.
Oh
A lot
yeah,
of people do.
100%. Yeah.
Um,
Look at Darkside Phil, man. What does he really do? He doesn't
I
even know how
don't
to play
know.
video games, but people like he's gonna be streaming Let's Plays till the sun explodes. And it's like, why? I don't what's the appeal? What was the appeal of Boogie? I don't know. Like it's just
That documentary too was
oh
just a
fuck,
pure
man.
distilled documentation of just like here is how my life has been, and this is like the side effects of sort of like celebrity dumb online in the early age, and then
Yeah.
here is just me being a total lol cow.
Like DSP's done some contemptible things, like the way he treated Panda, whatever. But like that's nowhere near like Boogie. I say this word like I think like I use this word with some gravity, but when you see that someone's just genuinely a bad person, that's what Boogie is. He's just genuinely a piece of shit. He's genuinely a
mm,
bad person, and he just doesn't know. He has no respect for himself. He has no respect for anyone around him, and it's over for him. Uh, for all the heat that Wings of Redemption gets, at least Jordy is somewhat of a good person. at least he did try to take care of, his ex-girlfriend, and at least he, in that podcast he comes off as having a personality. And it's like Wings Redemption. I have, he's someone you can respect, but Boogie has no respect whatsoever, because he should have changed. He should have admitted his faults, but he didn't, and maybe it's, as a fellow fat guy, I just hate to see a fat guy be that much of a manipulative, abusive piece of shit. But it is what it is, man. And sorry I cut you off, Prude. I just had to give my spiel about fucking Boogie, like,
many cases.
Am I wrong though? Am I wrong, Prude, about Boogie? Am I wrong?
I think everyone should view that kind of lifestyle as a cautionary tale of what not to do.
Yeah,
I thought Dave had the best sort of like coverage on that respect. Was just that, hey, obviously, this could have easily been anyone, right? On in our sphere of things, like how many people years ago didn't have the beliefs that they do now, and could have gone down that route. I mean, it's a world to consider, and anyone could be that person. I think, obviously, should have quit while you were ahead, and maybe wisely invested your money. But again, the ultimate cocaine dopamine hit, right, is being online, being seen. Like we covered this with the Pandora's Fox article. People will escalate the most ridiculous shit imaginable just to keep the eyes on them, because we're that addicted to the clicks and the views, and how easily stirred we are to just levels of contempt, even for our friends, when we see how they're doing in comparison to ourselves. Because everyone has to be some kind of performative narcissist artist to do what they do online. And because I mean, like, clearly you enjoy it, and you have to enjoy what you're doing in order to be successful.
You gotta enjoy what you're doing. Yeah,
because if not, like, you'll enter this cycle of, I'm ready to like just sunset myself from ever doing another video or live stream again, and then you'll get hit instantly with an idea, and you're like, nope, I got to make all the things, and I got to do it right now. And if you get yourself into that trend, into that cycle, eventually the side that tells you to go jump off a bridge, I think, will win, because we've seen burnout from so many lolcows and so many other people.
Oh yeah,
that it's sort of this inevitability, and that's sort of like the nasty end of where this long black train of I guess desire for the narcissists, but I'm not
narcissistic supply, as David Serini would say.
Yeah, but I'm not looking into the river. I'm looking into the screen, and I'm looking at the view count. I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm looking at all that stuff, and I'm watching people, take on what they're doing. I personally don't think it will. That's just
I hope
me.
So. No,
but I don't think that model will last.
All of life will become fish tank.
Are we referring to H Bomber guy or what?
No. The other British one, Philosophy Tube.
No,
is the one. But I think what the problem with Boogie is that, like, it's the emotional manipulation. It's not just the fact that he blew all his money. Whatever. Okay, fine, whatever. But, like, as a content creator, you have a right to blow your money away on stupid stuff. But I think it's Jim Sterling also became an impossible.
Oh God, that's true.
Yeah, terrible.
And it was funny because, like, I think it was because I follow some, like, sort of, like, I don't want to say like right wing, but I do follow some, like, anti SJW, anti woke. That's a throwback term, right? But like some people that are like, yeah, look at all these like video game review scenes where the guys are like they brought Jim Sterling on, and everyone on that entire panel was like, I don't know how the hell to deal with this person at all. And that's again, right, like you live long enough to reify new trends in order to become what they are, and you just get like really everyone is like, whoa, this is way too far. I remember when you were just some like edgy libtard 2009 style Seth MacFarlane new atheist liberal, and now you're a man in a dress. Like, the excesses, right?
Again, what Nightmare Vision said on Night Owls, what happened to the new atheists?
They're men in dresses.
Became impossible. Yeah.
They're men in dresses, yeah.
And now Richard Dawkins, after all the damage that he's done, finally is saying, oh my God, I made a big mistake destroying Christian culture in the West. What am I going to do? I'm going to become a cultural Christian. Did you see that?
I saw the, well, I mean, this is basically the, what's the word I'm looking for? This was the discussions about cultural and clash of civilizations. Like, even if you're not, even if you're not Christian, I mean, it's just going to be the, cultural background that comes with it. And that's just how it's going to be. We see this with, Hersan Ali, right? Like she said, she converted.
Oh God.
And I mean, even if she
Yeah.
did, and one would hope that it's genuine. I mean, how much,
Yeah.
like, the language of crusade gets used so much for, the anti-Islam stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, which again, one, that's true. I mean, Islam is still a cultural and civilizational and religious enemy to the West, but also like, people don't take the faith of the gospel with respects to what that actually means. And so again, you take on branding, you take on fandom, you take on whatever. And I mean, Twitter is a great example of this. I think every person hates the online representation of their own respective religion. I don't think that like a priest trying to save souls for the Roman Catholic Church is particularly happy with the state of like online Catholicism.
E-Catholicism, yeah.
And the same thing with any other church, my own included. Like, avoid it like the plague.
My friend Piffy had a good take that the newer breed of e-chud Catholics, they're not going to tolerate all of the bickering and all of the intellectual masturbation, and it's like, hopefully. We can only hope. But to clarify a few things from the chat, Arsenius is mentioning, is Geo transgressing the order of obesity, where
the orgy. Yeah, that's actually really funny.
That's from PPP, but it was Boogie that said that he doesn't want to chat another fat guy because he was going after Tipster, and so there was a joke on Kino Casino of the order of obesity, where us fat guys, we try not to like criticize each other online. Like we try not to criticize other online fatsos. But I mean, I try to criticize. I don't like. Listen, I don't know. It's kind of funny how I do kind of resent certain other online fat guys, but I try to curb my criticism of online fat guys. And no, did Boogie go to prison Tuesday? No, Boogie did not go to prison. That was Ethan Ralph. Speaking of online fat, actually, I shouldn't say that. Ethan Ralph is no longer that fat, but he still went to jail. But no, did Boogie go to jail? I think Boogie. No, Boogie didn't go to jail.
I don't know enough of this lol.
Boogie's going to go to jail for tax fraud one day, probably. I can only imagine this. Oh my God! But the order of the order of obesity. Geo discovering his friend's enemy distinction, except it's obesity. Motherfucker. Geo talks about e-celebs like Taylor Swift writes about ex-girlfriends. You fucking people are bad, man. You're bad. Geo would be cool with Campo if he were skinny. Well, I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say that. I'm trying to eat carnivore, not total carnivore. You can't eat total. I don't know. I'm trying to cut the carbs out, man. It's hard. That's why Geo likes Zizek, because he's a fat guy. Zizek's really been posting cringe lately, though, man. He's been posting cringe lately. The fat obesity distinction.
That's actually really fucking good.
The fat obesity distinction. You fucking people.
That's good stuff.
Oh no, that's right. Boogie was arrested for discharging a firearm, but they let him off though. That was the Frank Castle.
Oh, that is true. Yeah. There you go.
Man, I don't know what happened to Zizek, man. Like, he's been posting cringe. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. No, I am going high protein in my diet. Yeah, I am going high protein. So, it is what it is.
Shall we get to the super
chats? Let's get to the super chats, man.
Alrighty. Well, then let's get to it. The entropy link is down below in the description. It is also the pinned comment in the YouTube chat. So there you go. We will start off with the entropy chats here, and I'll just go down the line.
We got the best fans in the world, Prude. Best fans in the world.
Never give them what you want, but
that's my problem. I give them too much of what they want. You know?
No, well, they love paying you for it. So we'll start off here. Seneca sends $3 US. Thank you very much. I'm going off entropy here. He says, I'm thinking conspiracy theories will die in a decade. Conspiracy theories imply extreme regime competency to hide the conspiracy. Our regime is now too incompetent for the suspension of disbelief. There are still very highly competent people running things. We are given a clown show, but so much is hidden behind procedures that are intensely anti-fragile and bureaucracy systems that are very anti-fragile with people that don't have much to lose because they don't have to ever worry about getting fired. Even if you're incompetent, a system can do a lot regardless of its personnel. I don't think conspiracy theories will die out because, again, nation states will always use disinformation, propaganda, and outright deception to get what they want. And political formulas are not always based in truth, and that is used all the time to motivate people. I mean, again, if you were to tell someone 30 years ago that to be left wing requires you to be suck the girl dick bigot, then they would tell you that you're crazy. But I mean, that's an elaborate conspiracy to make everyone gay or trans. But turns out no, that's just the way that it is now, and unfortunately, people just accepted that. Yeah. And so I don't think conspiracy theories will die out. I think that it will be harder to tell what is genuine conspiracy and what is propaganda. I think that the line will get blurred very quickly. And we're already seeing that now. I mean, just look at the whole royal family stuff, or people going crazy about Emmanuel Macron or Candace Owens calling Macron's wife a man, and that secretly every wife of every world leader is a man.
We need some transvestigations immediately.
Yeah, right.
BitChute videos on it. Yeah.
So I don't know if it'll go away completely. I think that it will. The lines between what is and what isn't, psyops, montages, fake outs, people having their own crazy ideas that Trump is the Antichrist or whatever, all that stuff is still going to be around. But the question that I think people will start asking is this genuine conspiracy theory? What shadowy cabal is doing this? Or are they just flat out saying it? Or are they just the way that they are because XYZ? I don't think it'll go away entirely. I think it'll just become, it'll be more focused on who's doing what. Are the Russians doing this? Are the Israelis doing this? Is it the U.S. government doing this? Who's funding what? I think that things will get somewhat more transparent in the future, but we're also going to be living in the desert of the real way quicker than I think people realize.
Well, yeah, I think conspiracy theories will always exist because conspiracies really they're an ontological claim about power. They're a way of, I mean, some people say it's a way of the powerless to imagine that they figured it out, and that's a form of pseudo power. But that's not really the case. I think it's deeper than that. There is a spiritual element to conspiracies in that they're as old as time itself for a reason. There's been conspiracies or claims of conspiracies in the ancient world. They will always be with us because they are a way of mediating out an ontological picture of power, of how power intersects with the nature of being itself. To claim that there's a conspiracy is to claim that there is an order of being, right? And conspiracies are very popular now because of the fact that we live in an age that has at one end promised transparency in all things, the age of the digital, the age of information, but also we know that things are not as transparent. There's a greater hiddenness to all things as well at the same time, which breeds a very schizoaffective cultural and personal psychic character. And so that is why conspiracies will always continue. Conspiracies will get more elaborate. Conspiracies will get more schizophrenic. They will become more, shall I say, artistic in nature. But nevertheless, conspiracies will persist. The skepticism towards them will probably increase, but I think that even the skepticism of them, I think the sort of midwit Reddit soy jack, like, conspiracies are just a way of coping. That I think will taper down because the world itself will gear itself towards this schizo brain when it comes to power, the nature of reality, the digital, and also the personal and psychic. The conspiracies will become more internalized, and people have based a lot of their identities around them, and so that trend will only continue. So people will conspire against each other. People will conspire against themselves. So that's going to happen. You will conspire against yourself in the future in a weird way.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot that will.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just inevitable. I think that the schizophrenia will increase to a crescendo point that I don't think we've seen yet.
Mhm.
I mean, if you thought how it was with COVID at the beginning was bad, I don't think we've seen the end of it. I think that
Yeah.
something will make it worse.
Yeah, and Dana has a great point. Low trust societies are also far more prone to them. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's just a fact.
Yeah, that's just definitely the case. And I mean, like, there's very tight tolerance for what's acceptable and what isn't. And I mean, as we notice the mechanisms of what drives narrative, both narratives, but also, the whole like manufacturing of consent. I mean, that process still exists. I mean, we're just more hyper aware of it and potential actors that may or may not be. And this goes back to how warfare has evolved, that you don't know whether or not you're actually engaging with talking points that have been brought out of a think tank for a regime or completely organic. And we're already seeing that, schizophrenia will increase until the morale improves, basically.
You could be watching a BreadTube video, but you're actually watching a narrative created by the Rand Corporation.
Or by the National Endowment for Democracy.
yeah.
Which we have seen.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's see here. Owen Zaleski says for $3. Hello, gents. It's great to hear from you guys. The play is going great. Next weekend is the opening night. Pray that it goes well. Oh yes. Our art teacher friend Owen Zaleski. Yes, I hope that it does go well. Did you see the ContraPoints tweet about Philosophy Tube skin suiting him? God bless. Yeah, I didn't see the tweet. But we were referring to it earlier, and I think I know Mr. Medicare in a recent stream of his was talking about it pretty in depth. Not Mr. Medicare, it was iHypocrite was talking about it pretty in depth and tried to review some like film or whatever about these kind of people, and he couldn't get through it, and it was pretty rough.
What was the film?
Something that basically is just about the whole you want to be your trans girlfriend and like the pornography and everything, and it was like really bad. But I watch iHypocrite if I want to get like my like dose of e-drama and like see what the hell's going on in a space that I don't inhabit.
You're not a Kino Casino person.
I don't really know. I don't watch them. I don't watch a lot of. I really don't watch a lot of like YouTube or internet stuff anymore. I try to read more actual stuff or not engage with it because I'm trying not to go insane. But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, because I think ContraPoints had made some remark that like there are people I could Me Too and sue, but I just don't.
You know what would be great?
Yeah, what would be great, Gio?
If okay, so you know how Philosophy Tube is going on that new Star Wars like slop whatever drama series? Imagine if right before that comes out, Natalie decides to Me Too Philosophy Tube. That'd be incredible. That'd be such a Machiavellian move. That would be like
it's hard for me to care.
Don't you love it when our enemies destroy each other? Don't you just love it, Prude?
You would. Well, I wish that they would actually do more damage to themselves.
Listen, I think anything we say about them isn't going to can't be worse than what they already do to themselves. So,
yeah, well, what's the prayer I asked, or the saying, I asked God to make my enemies ridiculous. He granted that prayer.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Owen Zaleski sends another $3. He says, review, groip, or ban. Strange Eons, Quentin reviews, thoughts, line. Ban them all. Ban them all.
I don't know. I think they could get.
I also don't know who Strange Eons is, and I don't care to find out.
I don't know, man. Like
ban them all. Ban them all.
Ban them all.
Ban them all.
Well,
Sam,
what was the first option?
Review, gripe, or ban. There you go.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, ban them all.
Although Quentin Reviews getting griped is kind of, I don't know. Imagine if you like had a panel at some Comic-Con and then like you get like the Griper Wars where they start asking him like, that'd be funny. He starts sweating, he starts sweating. I'm not gonna ask that. I'm not gonna answer that. No, but yeah, just ban them all though. Ban them all. Ban them all. Yeah.
Like if you want to see people review and gripe these people, just go watch the EFAT people. That's really all I would tell you at that point.
Apparently, Survive the Giant gripe Philosophy Tube back in the day with a video. I didn't know this, Laura.
Good.
Yeah.
Really, all I can say at that point. Good. Just good. Good stuff.
Is Strange Aeon's cute? She's a little bit cute. I can't. Yeah. Just Strange Aeons has terrible ideas, unfortunately.
I don't know who that is, and I don't want to find out. Do not inflict knowledge against me against my will, Gio. Sam153 sends for $10. He says, "Good luck on the
$10." Yeah.
Yeah, he says, "Good luck on the job decision. Cheers." Yeah, I need to make a decision by sometime tomorrow. I think I know which one I'm going to take, just because the one of those things would require me to be far more publicly facing, and as a face fag, I really don't want to take that risk. So I think that's definitely made my decision for me with that respect.
I didn't know that I didn't know that wages had to jump through so many hoops to get a new job. That's crazy. Oh my god!
Spoken like a true niece.
Prude's soul just like left his body a little bit there.
It's very hard to keep it. Charlie Mackey sends a very generous donation of $50. I'm very grateful for that, sir.
$50.
He says, "Afternoon, gentlemen. Do you have a favorite casual work of fiction? I have a great respect for the classics and more meaningful. I'm looking for something easier to digest, but still has value and worth. Also, how much for either of you to review A Canticle for Leibowitz?" Well, A Canticle for Leibowitz is one of my favorite pieces of fiction of all time. I would happily take another super chat of that amount or more to review it. I quite like that book. I don't know if it has a lot of value, but there is a sort of schlocky pulp fiction-esque sci-fi series that I like by Robert Buettner called the Orphanage series. And it's basically like, well, what if we took the bug attack on Buenos Aires and then we put Earth in 21st century, like global war on terror era of the world where it's still like Pax Americana, and all of a sudden like we have to go fight the aliens on the moon of Ganymede. And it's got a mix of like Starship Troopers with some Stargate stuff included. But it's a really good science fiction series. I read it in high school, and I still go back to it every now and then because it's written by a former Intel officer, and he just wanted to write sci-fi when he got out, and it's pretty good. And he knows his stuff because he's a former service member. So I would enjoy that. I've been recently told that you should also read Graham Greene, who's known for the book The Silent American, which I think is what most Americans are familiar of his work. But he also wrote a book called The Power and the Glory, which is about the socialist government of Mexico in the 1930s trying to ban Catholicism and Christianity and sort of the struggles of that time for Catholic priests and so on. Our friend T.R. Hudson recommended that, so I would suggest that. Charlie Mackey, if you liked A Canticle for Leibowitz, Graham Greene apparently wrote a lot of fiction with a lot of Christian centered focus, so I would recommend that. But I like Robert Buettner's The Orphanage series. It's good schlocky sci-fi that I still quite enjoy because it's a good adventure, and I'm going to read more fiction as time goes on. But yeah, I highly would recommend that.
Also, a great wrestling tag team move, Power and Glory.
Thank you, Hafios. I appreciate that.
I don't know how to answer that question. I guess light literature. I used to read this one series. It had like King Alfred in it. Oh man, Bernard something. Someone mentioned I Am Legends in my mentions the other day. And that was one of my favorite books I read when I was a kid. I read The Road, I read I Am Legends, but that's not like easy literature. I don't know. What would be easy literature?
Richard Matheson.
Richard
Yeah.
Matheson, yeah. I don't know. I guess, yeah, Ken Follett isn't that bad. I guess to shout out one of our guys, go and read Mixtape Hyperborea. There you go. Oh, and read Journey to Vapor Island. There you go, by Robert Stark. Read Journey to Vapor Island, and Vaporfornia is second one. So there you go.
I mean, our friend David Herod also just put out his own little novella. It's basically post-apocalyptic Lewis and Clark.
Whoa!
So I'd recommend that. Improvidence is the name of the book, so I would go for that. I will always tell people to support our friends and friendly publishers, so go for that as well. And our friends over at Tukey Sidebar, their stuff is good because they review the literature our guys write, and that was a good time to enjoy. Yes. Read The Stars, My Destination. The Stars, My Destination, a novel by Alfred Bester. Published in 1956. Okay, well, I will add that to my list of things to buy copies of. But sure, sounds cool. No, Brent Taylor, we're not going to talk about that. So we're going to move on to the YouTube super chats. Let me just refresh Entropy real quick. Yep. All right, on to the YouTube ones, and here we go. Pillars of the Earth looked really good when Ken released it back in the day. I have no idea. I haven't read anything by Ken Follett. Templar for $5 says the right wing is hierarchical. If women want a voice in base role, they have to marry and speak through their husbands. I'm not that right wing, but them's the rules.
Yeah, well,
you're gonna have to work really hard to get that world back. That would have
kind
to be
of
the effort.
Yeah. That's
and also the problem with a lot of things that are almost Pandora's box like are going to be what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be very hard to get people to voluntarily relinquish sovereignty without power.
Yeah, that's what Kashuda said. It's like there's no incentive there for women to give up their social power. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah. Of course, then the Covfefianum reply to her was, "It's not going to matter." But oh god.
Well, potentially. But yeah,
we'll never know. We'll see. I don't know, man.
Yeah, there's no incentive to
gender war is such a depressing topic. It's like it's no winners.
Yeah,
no winners.
The cycle doesn't end, despite the fact that a lot of the barbarism that attacks civilization is disguised and under the banners of things like feminism or liberation, and that's the great way to ideologically open the gates of Toledo. But AA's evil twin.
Speaking of good things, though.
Yes, with a very generous amount.
$100.
He says, "I haven't." It's very kind of you.
Shit!
Thank you. Much appreciated. Much obliged. I haven't forgotten about you, Prude, from a Louisiana boy working in the West Texas oil field. So you're probably out in what, Abilene or Midland and Odessa. I appreciate that a lot. It's greatly appreciated. I'm glad that you use your hard-earned oil money to support a frog like me. Greatly appreciate it. And then Big Ben does the same with no comment. But again, that's incredibly generous, and I have no words to appreciate.
$100
to appreciate my gratitude.
Apparently, that comes with conditions, though. Big Ben said.
Oh, does it? Well, he can.
Well, we'll see.
Oh, I see. Because he sent $14.92 later on. I'm not opposed to that, guys. But yeah, we'll carry on here. Donna Hasser for $5.
$5
at a Sildings conference a while back. Glad you guys liked the movie. It's a great one for I don't like anime, but the parasocial and idealization commentary is great. I mean, that is.
Oh yeah.
I'm like I said, I'm not a big anime guy, but there are some good bangers out there, and the Satoshi Kon film is one that you really can't go wrong with. It was a good movie. I would recommend that you watch it. Seasider for $5 says
$5.
Good movie. Everyone make sure to recommend your favorite anime in the chat. They'll totally watch them. Yeah, no, that's probably not going to happen unless you pay either myself or Geo $100, and that individual will review it themselves.
Well, a series would have to be a lot more than $100, but it depends how long the series. There's a lot of animes are short, so yeah, I guess $100-$200. I don't know.
Yes, Owen Zaleski. I saw both of them. Your one about the play, and then the other one about review groyping and banning. And I said ban them all to the second one, and then we did see the Philosophy Tube stuff in question.
Oh, I'd review Strange. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But yeah, I did. Yep, you're in Odessa. I figured. And yeah, Paranoia Agent is a short anime series. I thought it was a film, but I haven't seen it. But I wouldn't be opposed if the payment was given. I've been told it's a really short series, like one season, less than 20 episodes. That might not be bad. Big Ben for $14.92. What a can I come on the show with you boys? Well, I think we wouldn't be opposed. We've joked about doing a call-in show.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be opposed to that. So maybe one day
we would just have to screen the callers that they're not going to like drop hard R's or whatever,
Yeah. But I wouldn't be opposed to a call-in show. So no, Big Ben, that's something that we would like to do. Let's see here. Okay, cool. John Carter being an asshole, but thank you very much for $9.99. Congratulations on your job offer. However, unfortunately, I refuse to subscribe to Daily Wire Plus or Mug Club, so I guess I'll donate to the guy who won't read my donations. Well, I'm not. For full discrepancy and transparency, I'll make a short little announcement community post. The job I am accepting has nothing to do with what I do on the internet. It is all what I do IRL. It has nothing to do with what I've done online. And I don't want to stir the pot or cause shit, but outside of a couple of people helping, and they know who they are, nobody in my entire network that I know online and through mutuals and stuff had helped or got me anything. And I don't say that like I'm expecting entitlement. I say that just because nothing worked, although some people did assist me in that respect. But no, I will never be working for the Daily Wire. I will never work with Steven Crowder. That's just the God's honest truth. I have an extreme prejudicial doubt that I will never work for the Blaze, and I will never work for any of those other works, just simply because, like, if it was going to happen, it probably would have happened by now.
Oh, you came close with the Blaze, though.
It didn't work out, and I thank God for it, because I would have lost access to my weekends, and my religious life takes precedence over that. But no, it's not going to be. It ain't going to happen. I'm going to be working in an area that will be beneficial to my technical expertise and working closer in government. So, I mean, that does have some risks associated with what I do online, but it's also very rural. So I think I'll be okay. But no, it's not anything to do with that respect. Live show at the Old Glory Club this summer. Well, that depends on whether or not Geo goes, but that would be fun. That would be a fun thing to do, a live show.
Yeah.
But then Alexander M sends for $5. Says, God bless you guys. Dawkins has been saying he's culturally Christian for 12 years, mostly in response to viewing Islam as a threat to his values. Yeah, it turns out you need some kind of ideological and religious backdrop to, if not, it'll be replaced. But I mean, it's mainly about Islam. It isn't about the progressivism that he deifies. And so he's still part of the problem.
Yeah.
He again, it's the reify the premise, critique the excess, and for him that's what it is. Nothing
plus
more.
Like, let's face it, is there going to be the global caliphate anytime soon? No,
but I mean that's just sort of the case that's going to be how it is.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, a live show would be nice. Let me go refresh Entropy. Nope, I think we're good on that end, and we're good here on the YouTube end there. So, yeah, cultural Christian means that I am an atheist that likes to take advantage of the society that both Christianity and the pre-Christian world in Europe do. So yeah. How do I get plugged in? Email. You can shoot my channel email an email and we can talk about it. But a call-in show would be something to do. But yeah, something to consider. Yeah, it also means that you want to live around white people. That's also true. Can't admit that part out loud, do they?
Yeah.
It's really what it is. Yeah, it's also the counter jihad maxing stuff. But in the meantime, I will have hopefully my review on the Institute of Diplomacy and Peace discussion of After Newland available on Substack. That'll be out soon. If you are already a patron or channel member, you have access to a recording I have done interviewing Jeremy Carl and his upcoming new book, The Unprotected Class, How Anti-White Racism is Destroying America. So you can see that early. It'll come out and premiere sometime in a couple of weeks. It'll probably come out the week I start my new job. So which will be, I start on the 15th. So I'm going to be transitioning to probably more video essays in the meantime. I'm looking at my calendar right now. Sorry, guys. So it'll probably come out sometime that week or the next. And then, well, hell, the Digital Archipelago time will probably have to change. So Gio and I will have to talk about that off the air. I have a full... Sorry, Gio. Like, this is not had.
Would we have to do it at nighttime or during the...
on a Saturday? But it'll just depend. We'll have to figure it out. But again, I didn't want to break that discussion on the air. But yeah, things will have to change. And
I'm just worried about the audience being too used to Thursdays. You know what I mean? Like that's the only thing.
Sure,
it doesn't matter like the time. It's just well, we'll see.
Well, we'll make it work. But yeah. But more stuff to come, as per usual. I have some film and some other essays I do need to finish. That's sort of what matters, and I'm going to be spending a lot more time in this coming week. Literally the entirety of this next week is just going to be me writing and recording as much as humanly possible to get stuff out. I start a new job. But yeah, and then Gio, you put out your Legally Blonde reviews.
Yeah, and hopefully next week I'll have another content minded. So I have the Legally Blonde reviews. I have on Gen reviews. Then I have probably tomorrow I'll put out some for the patrons, just me ranting about Russia. Then also this week, me and Default released another episode of the Computer Room. We talk about stuck culture. We talk about the Andrew Huberman thing. We talk about emos and their legacy. And it's a really good episode. And then I think either the end of this week or maybe next week, we're going to release the on the Computer Room, the interview we did with Scott Greer on the history of the alt-right and the dissolution of the alt-right. So that was a really great one, and looking forward to it. And hopefully next week I will have a content minded out. So we'll see what happens.
What are we doing next week? Have we figured that out?
Oh, we'll see.
That's the secret of the show. Most of the time, we don't know what we're doing until like 2 or 3 days before.
Yeah.
It'll be like that for quite some time. Although that'll probably change. Like when we do a movie or TV show review, it usually allows us to be...
Yeah.
Well, it gives us a chance to be more grounded. But yeah, I mean, more stuff to come. So again, I have the Substack down there below, so you can go ahead and find that there. And stay tuned for more work to do. Next week I'll have a part 2 out on my Mearsheimer discussion, him and Sebastian Rosado's book How States Think, Rationality and Foreign Policy. You can see part 1 there as well, and then part 2 will come out next week as we look at the case studies and some of the more definitional things. A lot of theory, a lot of fun. We're going to get back into Geopol this year as well with the literature.
Oh, and my next movie review will be Fantastic Planet, which I think maybe you might have to send me a copy, Prude, because I can't find a fucking English version. I can only find a French version that's free. So,
Fantastic Planet, you said?
Yeah.
The 1973 film?
Mm-hmm. The animation film, yeah.
I will go see what I can do, because Gio doesn't know how to pirate things off the internet, so...
I may just have to subscribe to Criterion Collection for these film reviews.
Pirate Bay. Well, what's it called?
Fantastic Planet, yeah. There you go.
Go to my favorite torrent places here. Oh, there's one. Cool. I think this is the Criterion Collection. Open. Yep, cool. We're good to go. Alrighty. Well, with that being said, we'll see you all next week.
All right. God bless. Goodbye. Sweet.
See you, gents.